Hello, and welcome to Revamped, a rewatch podcast that revisits my top favorite shows and movies. I'm your host, Brandon Alexander, joined by my co-host,
Courtney Autumn.
Venture with us as we set our sights on the infamous Hellmouth to cover 90s cult classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Follow along from the beginning, spoiler-free, as Courtney views the show for the first time and I revisit the series for new takes and a fresh perspective on its narrative.
Each season, every episode, in order, we will follow Buffy Summers and her friends to examine their character development, the show's underlying themes, along with its major story arcs, all while engaging in conversations, sharing our own authentic thoughts and feelings to what's unfolding before us.
So sharpen your stakes, load your crossbows, and join us as we explore the supernatural world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's get into the episode.
And that's the start of the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our next episode, the one you've all been waiting for, quite literally, because I know I have. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 2, Episode 13, Surprise.
Surprise!
This episode aired January 19th, 1998, written by Marty Noxon and directed by Michael Lang. And it's Buffy's birthday. Happy birthday, Buffy. I'll start, though, by saying this episode aired on what the show deems as Buffy's actual birthday, by the way. So, as I was saying that, like last episode, we don't have to wait until season 4 anymore. Buffy Summers herself was born on January 19th, and she is a Capricorn.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Now I know, finally.
I know. That would have been crazy. We would have had to wait 2 more seasons and a half before we
I'm
got
glad
to that.
I don't. I've been wanting to psychoanalyze her from like an astrology perspective, so now I'm glad I can.
Lich. And I do want to say before we start that we are going into this episode with the knowledge of innocence because we watched both of these back to back. So if you haven't seen it, I don't imagine that anybody that is sitting here listening to this podcast has not seen Buffy. But for that very one person that has not watched the show ever and is just listening to the podcast and stuff, totally go watch the episodes and then come back, or just be ready for possible spoilers. We're not going to go deep into innocence, but there will be probably some overlap and some conversation that takes place just so we can connect it. We're going to already hop in knowing what happens in that episode and all that stuff. So just putting it out there. This episode's guest cast, though, it includes Brian Thompson as the judge, previously seen on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Luke is who Brian played before in Welcome to the Hellmouth and The Harvest. I remember I had to tell you that whenever we were watching it, like whenever the judge finally came on the screen, I was like, does this man look familiar? And you're like, no, he looks quite blue. And I was like, oh, all right, great. But like you can hear it in his voice. It's not the exact same voice because I think this time, obviously, he had a lot more makeup and like different type of teeth in than he had before. So he has a little bit more like space in between his words, but he still has that deep, very girthy, like voice. Like it's very strange. But yeah, we have Brian Thompson back, which was cool. Like, that's a way to bring somebody back, you know, dress them all in blue and like put them in a head to toe suit of armor, and his eyes are blacked out with contacts. So he looks nothing like Luke. You can just, if you really listen to it, because the actor's voice is so specific, you can be like, oh my God, I know who that is, or that sounds familiar, or whatever.
Well, it's like once you realize it, you can't unsee it kind of thing. But I think if you wouldn't have told me that was the same person, I wouldn't have caught on quite as quickly. Like, it would have probably taken me a lot longer. But now that you told me in the beginning, the whole time I just couldn't not see Luke.
That's Luke. We have Eric Syatt back as Dalton. I just said that because, you know, rest in peace, Dalton. And then we have Vincent Schiavelli as Jenny's Uncle Años.
Poor Años, we don't even know what exactly happened to him, but obviously he was not left in good shape.
Girl, that shit was so funny. We were discussing the episode afterwards. You're like, I wanted to see what his mangled body looked like. And I'm like, Courtney, what? You're like, he was just on the
I don't know what it is on. It was the same thing on Ted when they didn't show like the closet full of his wives or whatever. And I was just like, but why not show it? Like, stop alluding. I need to see what they see so I can know why their reaction is this way. It's just too much curiosity.
You know what happened to the cat?
No.
You know what curiosity did to it, right?
Yes, but a cat has 9 lives.
All right, great. Well, you know what doesn't have 9 lives? The synopsis for this episode. It's Buffy's birthday, but the celebration takes a dark turn when we learn that Spike and Drusilla are on a sinister quest to gather remnants of a powerful demon known as the Judge, who will unleash Armageddon on the world. As Buffy and Angel attempt to stop their plans, we uncover the shocking revelation that Jenny has been hiding a dark secret from everyone. I did want to save this moment for now because the fact that Marty Noxon came on the show, she's written a few episodes by now, and I wanted to save it for this episode specifically to talk about the comment and like them bringing her on the show. Apparently, whenever she got interviewed, Joss had asked her, like, what do you think you can bring to the show? And as I remember, she simply told him, I can bring you pain. And Joss absolutely loved that. He was like, oh, okay, well, let's see where we can go with that. So that being there, you know, we can obviously see how these episodes unfold, exactly what she meant by that statement.
For sure.
But jumping into the episode and like my thoughts on it, obviously I've seen this thing 100 fucking times, but I was so excited to cover this episode. My whole life with this show, out of the whole series, these 2 episodes have been prized possessions of my heart. I'm sure a lot of Buffy fans would agree with that statement. They will forever go down as my first set of favorites for this season. The storytelling, the drama, the suspense, the love, and then in following with Innocence, the same elements are there, only there's the additives of like higher stakes, sorrow, big reveals, the biggest reveals truly, plus heavy degrees of fear and danger, which I loved because the whole time we were watching that, you're like, I'm scared. And I'm like, are you scared? And you're like, I'm scared. You're like, I'm scared some more, Brandon. I don't know. Can we cut it off and go smoke somewhere? I need to be high. I often mention how it's hard to recall what I felt or remember at the time of viewing episodes for the first time because, you know, I was so young. But let me tell you, these do not fall into that zone because I purely remember my reactions and the feelings I felt because they destroyed me. Like, my little prepubescent self was so in love with Buffy and Angel's relationship, and to speak more for Surprise specifically, the experience of their connection leading up to the final moments of the episode, just like have your heart soaring for the skies. You're like, this is everything. I'm so happy that like it's all been building up to this. They're finally just like taking every step that they can. They're fully immersing into the relationship for like a fucking second before everything goes south, literal moments after they consummate their love. Just as you've been built up and are so high on Bangel, it's ripped away from you. You're now in this new place where nothing is certain. You realize this show just flipped you on a dime in the ultimate way, because this show has already done this multiple times for us, flipped us on that dime. And first time viewing, the position that you're in, you're like, you specifically, Courtney, you're left to wonder if, you know, Angel will come back and what threats are pending with the arrival of Angelus. You know, somebody that both Giles, you know, everybody that's talked about the history, Spike, like, we know Angelus is not one to fuck around with. He's one of the most vicious vampires in history. But I like touching base to like Marty Noxon and her comment, we've experienced that nobody is safe vibe from the show and that anything can happen. And these are the moments that I'm really pleased that she was added onto the show, because her writing is admittedly amazing. You know, creating this like whole scenario, she had to cook all of this up. And obviously with like Joss and everybody else, because I mean, the next episode, Joss writes and directs himself. And I'm sure like everybody had a helping hand, but he was just like, I got to have full control of this. But either way, other than sweet old Bangel, the Judge in this episode, like, he is indestructible, of course, which poses a whole new threat. He is like a mini big bad for these episodes. He's supposedly unstoppable, and it's a cool concept. It's pretty wild, like what he can do, but I think he is technically like the biggest villain that we've seen since the Master, based on what he is like brought here to do. Because, you know, the Master wanted to destroy the world. He was going to open up the Hellmouth and bring on destruction to the world, and this guy can literally incinerate multiple people at one time. So he's just going to be walking through zapping people, like, you know, if he was able to have his reign and not be, you know, whatever happens to him, like, that's the only part I'm really not going to give away for next episode, because we'll talk about it then. But like, this guy is like bringing on, quote unquote, they call Armageddon, so an apocalypse. So like, you know, if you got humanity inside you, you're fucked. If you're evil and malicious and all that, then that's great. There's going to be a world full of villains at that point, and basically the world.
AKA now.
Yeah, exactly. The Judge is President Trump.
Mean Elon Musk.
Literally though, but I thought he was a cool character. I mean, like, technically I'm like torn on that though, because when you really watch the episodes, he's taken out pretty quick, and obviously because Buffy's a fucking badass, but he doesn't really do much but stand around these episodes. He kills Dalton and that one guy that's at the mall in the next episode, and then that's it. He doesn't have like any kind of crazy powerful stance. He almost gets Buffy in this episode and all that, but he's not really a villain that was there to do too much but stand around, like, which is funny because like the next episode, Spike comments,
yeah, it's interesting to me that preparing looks a great bit like sitting on your ass,
because he's just kneeling over there in the corner and stuff. So I was like, that's what the judge is good for. But he's there for like the intensity of the episodes, because before you know everything that's unwrapping, you're like, what the fuck is this guy gonna do, you know? Just to touch base really quick on Buffy, like this episode and the next, her birthday just gets worse and worse, and I truly feel for her. This is the shittiest way to spend your birthday, but it's a birthday on the Hellmouth, so what the fuck do we expect to have from this?
Right.
You know what I mean? We know nobody can ever just be happy on this show, and this has been like the biggest anticipated thing for me, is just knowing that this love has been built up and then it's just going to be destroyed before our eyes and stuff like that, and nothing's ever going to be the same after it because of everything that takes place as we run along these episodes. We're just like left in this white space. We can't see what's going to come of this, especially for your position. I know everything that's going to come, but you're like in this new seat. So that being said, I got to sit down and watch these episodes with you because these are the big ones. And these reactions were better than like the other times that we've sat and watched, because you were like taking this in a different way, and there was intensity, there was fear, like all those elements were there. So it was a lot of fun watching it with you this time around. So now I open up the floor to you. What did you think about Surprise?
Well, as you know, based on my reactions, that it was a super wild fucking ride for me, because there was so much going on and so many storylines were kind of happening all simultaneously, I guess, and you didn't have time to dissect one part of anything before another thing was revealed that you were having to worry about or focus on, and then another thing, and then another thing, and then another thing, and they were also layered with different emotions, you know, from starting kind of in a neutral place with Buffy's birthday and being somewhat excited and hopeful that like by some divine miracle she'll have like a normal fucking birthday, but like you said, it's the Hellmouth. We have that background stuff going on that's kind of lighthearted with Cordy and Xander still, and Willow and Oz, but then you find out some shit about Jenny, so it's kind of like you get slapped in the face a lot, it feels like, in this episode and the next one. You're just constantly like recovering from emotional whiplash in a way, and you're worried. I was worried. I was like, okay, now we got to worry about Jenny, because what's her backstory, because it took a second to get there, because now you're wondering where'd she come from, what's her purpose, her intention, you know, is she trying to kill somebody? That kind of thing. I think for the first time it was like the wildest emotional roller coaster of an episode, I think, for me personally, coming from a first time viewer perspective, because I almost couldn't keep up, because like I said, I was like, holy shit, Buffy's birthday's going down south. Who the fuck is Jenny? Who the fuck is the judge? What's he about to do? What's gonna happen to Drusilla? Is Spike ever gonna walk again? Like lots of questions.
Oh my god.
And then to just be left off with a cliffhanger, like what's happening to Angel, you know, like initially I was like, damn, Buffy must have been good in bed, because he's out here having a fucking heart attack now, like he about to die. Like you don't know what's going on. So yeah, it was just a lot to take in, but I really was so obsessed with it. And like you said, I took it in differently, because you just had to pay attention to it. There was something happening every second of that episode. So yeah, it was a lot, but I loved it. Yeah, it's good for one of those moments where you can tell the storyline's going to shift and we're going to start going in different directions now. So I'm excited.
The shock factor was fucking wild. That was the best part. Like when I made that post that I sent you yesterday, that I made the little Instagram thing with a few clips from the episode, and then it's got like your pictures flashed everywhere. Like I didn't realize, because I wasn't looking at you whenever we were watching the episodes. I was watching the episode, and like there were so many moments when you brought your hands up to your face, or you were hiding your eyes, or you were just gasping, and I was just like, yes, yes, yes. I felt like the master underneath the ground whenever the earth was shaking. I was like, yes, this is fucking awesome. I was like, bring forth this fucking energy. I love it. Well, that being said, now that we've got that stuff out of the way, let's jump right into the episode, because that's what the fuck they did. There was no previously on Buffy this episode, no Giles Slayer prologue. They were like, there is no time to waste. So like, let's jump right in it. So we open in Buffy's room, and she's in the bed, tossing and turning, waking up to no more water by her bedside. So she's like, all right, I'm going to go get some more. Walking out into the hallway towards her bathroom, where we see Drusilla appear behind her, moving quietly. Buffy opens the door in the hallway, which leads her into the bronze and not her bathroom, cluing us into the fact that we're in a dream sequence. You were like, oh, it's a dream. And I was like, no, it's not. And you just looked at me, and I was like, you're like, I'm not stupid. And I was like, all right, I guess not. The song that's playing as Buffy enters the bronze is called Anything by Sean Clement and Sean Murray, featuring Carrie Howe. Buffy walks through the bronze, finding Willow at a table with a monkey sitting on top of it, and she's speaking French to it. And I ain't even gonna begin to act like I can speak some French. Like, I can say like 2 phrases, but this I could not figure out how to say, so I'm gonna put the clip in here. Which translates to the hippo stole his pants. I told you in the episode while we were watching it that this is a humorous reference to What's My Line Part 2, where at the end of that episode, where Oz and Willow are walking out and she's helping him open his little box of animal crackers, he's deterring from the whole thank you vibes and talking about the monkey animal cracker wearing pants and that all monkeys are French. So it's like a little play for them and like a little preface like on their relationship that comes to fruition over these episodes in a way, or at least it opens up the door. But it's also like tying in like Buffy's mentality on these types of things too, like her awareness. So we know that like because of this fact, it puts us in the seat that her dream sequence is not just a dream that she's having, it's leading us into a more prophetic zone, which we see all the elements unfold from her dream in this, especially real time with Joyce later. But she waves to Buffy, Willow does, as Buffy looks confused and waves back, walking away. She's like, I ain't got time for you and your monkey bitch. Next, running into Joyce by a pillar, sipping coffee, as her mom asks,
Do you really think you're ready, Buffy?
Buffy giving a confused what, and the plate drops from Joyce's hands and shatters onto the floor, and she just walks off from Buffy. She's like, I'm taking my coffee and I'm out of here. I need more froth. I'm setting it up like a joke, and this actually is a very intense scene. It's also super sweet, but now over by the stage, Buffy slowly turns around, a soft, happy grin appearing across her face. Her walking towards what we come to see as Angel across the room walking toward her, and he smiles just as happy to see her. Like, you can feel this connection. Just her eyes that light up. Like, Sarah's acting is fucking spot on, but just like when they see each other from across the room, you can tell that both their hearts pour out for one another. Mm-hmm. And he's just as happy to see her, and midway to each other, walking towards each other across the room, he stops, and Drusilla comes up behind him and sticks a stake in the back side of him, and Buffy yells out in shock. She's like, fuck, what the hell is happening? Whoa. And we get the coolest slow motion dusting with Buffy reaching out for his hand with hers as it fades to dust before they can actually touch their hands. And here in the dream sequence, we get the 2K per angel slay as Drusilla stands in the midst of his ashes, looking to Buffy and vamp face, wishing her Buffy wakes up in her bed, severely startled, as we fade to black and we cue the Buffy theme. Meow, 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 meow. Mass is gonna be like, bow, 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 bow. I love this cold open. Obviously, we're clued in quick. It's a dream, like I've said, but the music and sequence is awesome for an opener. It brings in an element of danger with Drusilla being in Buffy's dream. As we know, she is still alive from this dream, and we obviously saw her the last time, but this is kind of cluing Buffy into that because of the fact she's dreaming about her, and she like obviously goes on a spiral this episode, thinking that her dream was obviously a portent. We also have the dusting of Angel, which is tormenting for Buffy to see. And we are left being like, whoa, what in the hell? Like, what does this mean for this episode? Does that mean like Angel's going to die? And technically it's representative of the fact that Angel dies. The song that's playing, Anything, that I spoke about, the lyrics to the song, I know like we're not listening to it truly when we're watching the episodes. We're, like you said, we're absorbing and taking in so much is happening. Plus it's a dream. So we feel like we're called to pay attention just deeper. But lyrics for the song are like, take me over, I'm lying down, giving it to you. I'm a hurricane, I cannot describe this feeling. Now that I found this love, I'll do anything for you now that I found this love. I'm a fire burning like a house of flame. I am motionless, I cannot move or see you fly. Now that I found this love, I'll do anything for you. And obviously we can do the math here and understand that these words and meaning of the song through the lyrics and what it is portraying. We get the lying down, giving it to you, a reference to sex that comes later in the episode, the description of feeling, the love that they have for one another, but also the song is perfect for Buffy's feelings for Angel through her previous quote, all I see is you, all I want is you, from Bad Eggs, when she's like telling him that. She is literally at this point in her life burning for Angel. He has a fire that has ignited within her. I actually went back and listened to a small little clip because I had remembered something from Becoming Buffy's podcast coverage of this episode. And in this scene, they talked about how Buffy finds Angel in this room after being alone and how she turned to find Angel, and it's symbolic of them finding each other, like no matter what, they've like come together and stuff. And referencing in Ted when Angel told her about Joyce, loneliness is one of the worst feelings in the world. they are just two lonely people that see each other and have a connection. And I want to add that statement had me thinking of their nature in Bad Eggs and what they discussed about the restrictions of their relationship at that time and everything leading up to now for them. We've talked about that should we, shouldn't we vibe with them a lot. This connection is obviously hindered because as they reach out to touch one another in this opening, Angel is dusted and taken away from Buffy, showing that they can't just reach out and touch one another. He is slayed by her foe, but also as a symbol for her slayerhood and the evil that keeps her, like Kendra, from having a normal life. This is where her focus needs to be. Something bad is always going to come up and take over. Like, it's never just going to be a normal life for her. It is showing that she could be restricted from finding happiness herself, much like we learn from Angel is not meant to have either, as it will cause the bad thing to happen. And we will see this connection of Buffy's with him poses negatively for her in the end also. So for both of these people, they're just walking like a fine line to destruction, like either way, because with Angel not knowing the stipulations over his curse, Buffy on the flip side of it, like, because of like having this relationship with Angel, she's going to be the cause of him primarily having this flip in his script. They just can't ever be happy. No one can ever be just happy on this show. There's always some kind of thing that's got to happen.
Yeah, well, and I think that it does a really good job because, when you're that age and you kind of fall in love for the first time, it does feel hopeless a lot of times. And because everything is so extreme in Buffy's life because she's the Slayer, it just really intensifies everything else that she has to go through ordinarily, because she's not just in love with a regular boy, she's in love with a vampire. And so I think like it really puts into perspective so many things that apply to her specific journey, but not without making it feel super relatable for you as a viewer, because we've all been in love, especially if you were watching it back then. I assume you were probably in that age bracket, like experiencing those feelings on your own for the first time, so you feel immediately like super relative to Buffy and to her journey, and you're just like, oh shit, I totally get what this feels like, obviously without the without the probability of your boyfriend or your partner or whoever getting slayed and staked in front of you. But at the end result, we all feel that kind of dooming sense when we fall in love with someone at some point in our lives. I think a lot of us go through that, so I think it keeps the show super relatable, which I love the most about it, because you still feel so connected to Buffy, but you are not a vampire slayer,
Yeah.
So it's crazy that it's such an extreme world that will never fully actually have the capacity to step into because it isn't real. But to feel so just connected to her journey in that way was really kind of powerful. And I think that's why I probably had a lot of the reactions that I did, because you're just like, you get it, you just get it. So you're kind of there on the ride with her. And I think every time we saw Angel and her go through the motions, that brought those emotions to light a lot, those things that you feel, the first time you're really falling in love and stuff. And you're like, well, this is probably doomed, but I'll do it anyway, kind of thing.
And that's like one thing the show does really good. It's obviously putting us in the seat of metaphor and like letting us live through these people and experience like what they're experiencing through adolescence. This is what those first time being swept up in your like kind of teenage first love, especially. And like most of the time, your first crush, your first love, whatever, it doesn't pan out the way that you want it to be. That's not the person you're usually going to spend your life with forever. Occasionally that happens, and you meet in high school and you grow off to have babies and live your life together if it like turns out picture perfect in that way, because that does happen. I know a few people that have been together since like high school and stuff, and they're married and have kids, but I know way more people that did not happen with,
definitely.
So
yeah,
there's something that always can like happen, and it just shows that sense of growing up, which is our main premise of the show. And it kind of gives those first feeding things into like being a teenager and having these emotions of feeling of love and like, I don't know, just like what Buffy and Angel is, that like I keep using the word betrothed nature because they're just like deeply passionate about each other. They're like all over each other, and that's like the ties that you get whenever you're like in that first love.
It's a very like all bets are off kind of thing, because like you mentioned, they know that like they're walking this really fine line, but it's almost they're at the point where they don't care, and they're gonna do what they want to be together anyway. And it's almost as if they know their time is limited or something. It's like you get that undertone of like they just want to hurry up and get to where the end point is, because they don't know, but they know it isn't a normal end point. They know they can't be together and like move in together and get married and do all this. So it's like their ending point comes a lot sooner. So I think it's the underlying notion of knowing, so you want to like get there
Well,
because you're like, we don't know what's going to happen. So we'd rather like see.
And because you said that, that is specifically why it bothers Buffy so much and why she's like enveloping all this so quickly, because later on in the episode, she makes that comment at the dock. She's like, in case you haven't realized, someone is always wanting us dead. So like, what if you never come back from this trip to take this box off? You know what I mean? Like, or what if by the time you come back, I'm not the Slayer anymore because I'm dead again? Like some big bad that's coming in the next 2 weeks, or Drusilla's done ate me and gobbled me up, whatever the case. So I haven't ever really paid that attention before, but you just kind of open my mindset with that and it connects. So I love that.
Yeah.
Back in the episode, though, that morning, Buffy rushes over to Angel's to find out if he's okay. And he is fine, but concerned with what the fuck's up. He's like, why are you here at 7 a.m.? I was just about to go to bed. She tells him of her dream that Drusilla was alive and that she killed him in front of her. And she's like visibly shaken as he tells her that it was a dream. It wasn't real. And it felt so real to her. She's bothered because this has happened before. Her dreams about the Master came true. She's so concerned that this is a portent of doom. And her bringing up Kiss ass Drusilla is still alive. They didn't see a body. We wouldn't see a body because it would be dust. So her comment is kind of null and void. That always drove me crazy watching it, because I'm like, well, duh, you wouldn't see a body, because what happens when you stick a stick or like light a vampire on fire? We find out with Dalton, like, you know?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
But he tells her not to worry. If she was, that they would deal. And she is not convinced and starts wigging more, and he silences her with a kiss. And for the first time, truly, we hear their love theme begin to play in the background, and we don't stop with this love theme the whole next 2 episodes, especially in this one. Like, it's playing at the end of every fucking scene, in the middle, in the beginning. Like, they might as well just like push play on this and just like looped it the whole episode. He pulls away to give her a chance to speak again, and she forgot what they were even talking about, and they go right back into a more passionate kiss. And she pulls away, saying that she has to go to school, motioning to leave. And he pulls her back once more for deep smoochies. And this is the point where they get like swept up, and that music cues in heavily more than it was already. It was like softly playing, and now it gets intense.
Go to school.
He brings up before she goes that she still hasn't told him what she wants for her birthday. She just asks that he surprise her, and he agrees, and they share one final kiss and a comment about liking seeing him at bedtime, realizing how that sounds, because he's like, it's bedtime for me, and she's like, well, I like seeing you at bedtime. And he's like, what? And then it's like alluding to like, oh my god, sex talk is in the room. Like, you know, it's really kind of cheesy in that way, but they're putting it out there because like we know that's what's to come by the episode's end, and this is just the beginning. He asks for clarity, and she mentions that she just likes seeing him in general, and the parts that they have to say goodbye just seem to be getting harder, and he agrees. I noticed both Buffy and Angel are wearing white. I don't think I've ever seen Angel in white before, like, but he's got a white t-shirt on, she's got her white jacket, and Buffy actually wears a lot of white in this episode. Like later on, she's wearing like a white jacket over her green pants before she gets thrown in the water and stuff, but white is the symbol of purity and innocence, which is often what we used to see Drusilla in all the time before now, who is now wearing black and red, as we can see. But this scene serves as a reminder that Buffy and Angel are once again betrothed, and not as irresponsible as they were last episodes in Bad Eggs. They really love each other and both agree that it's getting harder for their feelings to be tamed, which you were kind of prefacing a little bit ago in your like comments. They are deeply passionate about one another, which invites us into the convo for our next scene. Having arrived at school, Buffy walks with Willow outside, sharing all the deets on her intimate morning haps with Angel and the mutualness that was bedtime seeing. I love this whole scene because Willow's just like, I swear to God, she put a hook on her ear so she could hear Buffy more intensely this whole time. She's like, what? She's like, I want all this with Oz. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's just like gassing up. She's like in it. And then they swear in on the conversation of her feeling ready to sleep with Angel. Willow offering Buffy the past advice that she gave her once of Carpe Diem, which Buffy confuses for fish of the day. She's like, are you talking about some fish? Like, what are you talking about, carp? And she's like, not carp, carpe, you dumb bitch.
Not carp. Carpe means seize the day. Right.
And this was Buffy's Latin statement, meaning seize the day, aka seize the moment. And Buffy thinks that they are going to seize it.
Once you get to a certain point, then seizing is sort of inevitable. Wow.
Willow, blown away, just like says, wow. And then she goes on for 14 more wows because she is overly smitten with this whole idea for Buffy. Because, you know, being the biggest Angel stand and all for Buffy fashion. Willow's little purple hat that she was wearing, you're like, what is this hat? Like, where's Barney? What is happening? How ironic, because of timing of the universe, Allison Hannigan had just posted the flashback of her wearing this hat like the day before we recorded this. Like, it was really funny that came out. I like the purple hat. I would never wear it, but I do like it on Willow. It just really fits her character to have this goofy ass, bright ass electric purple hat on, you know? And it looks really good with her red hair, but it is very Willow. Oz is nearby tuning his guitar, and Buffy sees him, and in honor of wow potential, asks Willow if there's any sparkage between them. Willow saying that he's nice and she likes his hands, and Buffy calls his fixation on insignificant detail as like a definite crush sign. Willow worried about his senior status. I don't get that. She's like, he's a senior though, and I'm like, well, y'all are juniors. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck? Like, it's not a big deal.
100%.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Buffy laughably saying to Willow,
You think he's too old because he's a senior? Please, my boyfriend had a bicentennial.
shit was funny because you busted out laughing. You were like, shut the fuck up. And Willow is just nervous all around, and Buffy reminds her that she can't wait around for Xander to wake up and smell the hottie, suggesting that Willow make a move, do the talking thing. Willow is insecure about this, and Buffy tells her that she won't know until she tries, and leaves Willow, who goes over to talk to Oz. I love the callback, though, just the quote that Buffy gave to Willow in Welcome to the Hellmouth. The importance of Willow bringing it up here helps Buffy to make the choice that she is going to sleep with Angel finally. Like, she feels like it's time, which is mature in this way for her, because most people, I mean, teenagers especially, get swept up in these emotions and oftentimes have sex around 16, 17 years old, because that's when you just like, you feel all that fully. I mean, some people do it way earlier than that, but I feel like it's classic for people to like finally have an understanding of themselves and these emotions. Like, they might not necessarily be ready, and it might not be the best judgment call for them to always do as such, but it is a personal choice to do as such. Willow giving Buffy back her own advice, because it's a huge callback to the very beginning of the episodes. That was the same episode that Angel first appeared. He gave Buffy that cross. In this episode, he gives her her ring for her birthday. Like, so there's the symbolism there, but it also goes to show that this has backfired both times that the advice has been given for Seize the Moment, because when Willow was told by Buffy, she ran off with a vampire in Welcome to the Hellmouth and almost got ate up. And then now here, when Willow reiterates the advice to Buffy, Buffy sleeps with Angel, and then everything goes flip-sided for that too. So I'm like, should we really be Willie the Snitch? Should we really Willie be following the advice of Seize the Moment? Because tomorrow he might be dead. Like, literally, like, plays like a good portion, and it almost like makes me feel like that was like unknowingly, unbeknownst to the characters, like dialogue and the script writers and all the things saying that, because it's quite literal in these two senses. Because tomorrow Willow would have woke up dead as a vampire after that vampire could, or just dead, and Buffy could wake up dead tomorrow because Angela's about to fucking kill her. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
It's just interesting how that gets put out there. With Oz, Willow asks if his band has a gig tonight, because that's the first thing that she can bring up. And he makes the crack about how they have practice because the band's moving towards this new sound where they suck. I love Oz's dialogue, just the way they portray him, and like Seth Green does this monotone.
He's like very jokey, but like he never really cracks at himself.
Like
you know, like you're laughing, and he's just like, "What's funny?" You know?
Willow deters any negative doubts, and she's like, "No, you guys are great. Y'all sound good." And the awkward silence almost takes him over, and he says that he's going to ask her to go out with him tomorrow night, but is nervous about it. And her happily stating, she's like, "Well, if it helps at all, I'm going to say yes." And undoubtedly his comfort zone has like been created. He's like, okay, this is great. And then he officially asks her, and as soon as he's like, do you want to go out with me tomorrow night, she's like, smacks her head, and she's like,
Oh, I can't.
Well, see, I like that you're unpredictable.
Oh, it's Buffy's birthday, and we're throwing our surprise party.
It's okay.
But you could come, if you want it.
Well, I don't want to crash.
No, it's fine. Well, you could be my date.
And he's like, okay, I'm in. Then she walks off giddy, and I think it's the cutest thing ever, because Willow's just like, I said date. Like, this bitch ain't never had this comment in her life. I'm loving this for Willow, because she is like geeking the fuck up. She's so excited that she's got her technical first date with, you know, somebody that's not going to kill her, or somebody that's not going to treat her like shit, be scummy, all the things.
Oh, shit.
Inside the school, Xander is at Cordy's locker, and they're also discussing Buffy's party, and Cordelia is making a big deal about it, like, for herself, because she's like, should we be making a big deal because she's Miss Save the World? Like, whatever. She's like, I have to cook and everything. Xander's like, you're cooking? And she's like, well, yeah, I'm chips and dips girl. And he sarcasms the horrors of opening a can and stirring. Like, her adding and shopping and carrying. She's like, I have to grocery shop and then pour some stuff into a bowl. This is complicated, Xander. I'm like, bro, you act like you making a whole ass meal. A total chore. He is like, you should have a person that does that for you. And she's like, well, I keep saying that to my father, but does he listen? I like that quote, because I'm like, of course Cordelia wants a fucking servant. Like, would we expect anything else?
Butler.
Where's Alfred when you need him from Batman? Xander offers up the fact that they should go together, and she isn't sure why. Him offering against their better judgment that things between them keep happening, aka the makeout sessions, and they should just admit they're dating. And she's like, okay, I can't accept that until the guy spends money. I'm not calling anything dating. And he's like, well, fine, I'll spend, we'll grope, it'll be whatever, and they can be a fish. Saying that it would just be easier than hiding from their friends, and her informing him,
of course you want to tell everybody. You have nothing to be ashamed of. I, on the other hand, have everything to be ashamed of.
and he's like, okay, fuck this conversation, enough said, forget it, I'm gonna leave. So he walks off, and Xander runs into Giles immediately, who questions if everything is set up for Buffy's party, and he agrees that it is, hoping Giles is a funky party weasel who is ready to get down. He does, he says that. Giles taking notice to Buffy approaching and being like, oh wait, here comes Buffy, remember, discretion is the better part of the lore. And Xander's like, bro, you could just say shh. That shit's funny. The dialogue in this episode is just fucking popping. Buffy is walking with Jenny, arriving at them as Xander calls out to Buffy. He's like, Buffy, I feel a pre-birthday spanking coming on. And Jenny is like, I would curve that impulse, Xander. A lot of people get really annoyed with Xander's comment to Buffy about a pre-birthday spanking. And I think, like, just because it comes from Xander, people get really irritated because we already know who Xander is. Like, half the time he's commenting on, you know, sexual advocacy of Buffy and, like, how he wants to be with her and all this other stuff. And it kind of sucks at this line because I do like the line. I don't necessarily, like, agree with everybody else's stance, and I get how it can be coming from Xander. But it's classic for birthdays to, like, say that you get, you know, however many age you are, you get this many licks of an ass whooping. That's just like something we all heard growing up. It was a big 90s thing. So it makes sense for it to be in here. And I don't ever have a problem with it. In fact, I almost felt bad, like, because I've heard it in other podcasts and, like, hating on Xander for this comment. I used to say this to a lot of my friends growing up, like, boys and girls. If I knew someone's birthday was the next day at school, I'd be like, I feel a pre-birthday spanking coming on. And they would be like, shut the fuck up. Like, I ain't getting spanked. You know what I mean? And some people be like, ooh, spank me. And I'd be like, all right. But, like, I don't know. It's like this whole thing. I don't really have a disagreement with it. I think it's a funny quote just to put out my side of things. I get how it can be taken, like I said, because it's Xander saying it and he's oftentimes just skeezing people out, but whatever. I had to give my 2 cents on it.
No, I totally agree with you because, like you said, it was a very 90s thing. So I think for the context of it being in that era of time, like, I think at that point no one would have really second guessed it or thought twice about it or deemed it inappropriate. But if you didn't watch it in that era of time where that kind of phrase was relevant and you're watching it anytime after that, especially now that, like, we've gotten a little bit more sensitive about the dialogue between men and women, especially of that age bracket. You know, they're not adults, they're in high school.
Yeah.
So I can see why people can have, like, a certain perspective on it, but I totally agree with you. I think for the era that it was, or it's not, like, uncommon or it's not abnormal for that time.
Yeah.
We all probably said that shit to each other. You know, I come home and my damn stepdad be saying that to me and it wasn't inappropriate at all. You know, it was just like, that's what we did. It was our birthdays. You don't think my mom did the same thing, chasing me around the house? Like, it.
Right? Exactly.
Did, you know? Yeah.
And eventually that wore off. But we also have, like, the immediate wave of Jenny coming in to be like, I'd curve that impulse. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, he snips it back real quick. He's like, all right, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
She's maybe like, not at school, Xander.
Yeah. She's like, you can get me later. She's like, winks at Giles. Giles comments to Buffy, though, like, that she looks like she's in a fatigued mood, and her telling him of the dream that she had and how it freaked her out. And he already is understanding maybe that she felt like it was prophetic, but not sure, and doesn't want to start the freak out over Nada. She doesn't. And he agrees it's best to be on alert, but this could mean a cataclysmic state of affairs with the fact that Drusilla could be alive. And Xander commenting, again, my dude, with the long-winded phrases when you could just say, we'd be in trouble. I was like, Giles is always saying the most. And, like, and I have another comment to make for, like, episode 15. We're going to cycle back to this. But he's like, how about the shorter phrase, go to class, Xander? Like, because that's what Giles says, like, snarking back to him. And then he's like, I'm gone. And he's like, notice, like, how quickly I say gone. And then he pieces the fuck out because he's like, Giles is about to rip my ass up. Giles is always bothered by Xander, like, in the smallest ways. He's like the first one to want to snap on him and beat his ass. Like, I can't wait to some other moments in the show. Like, it's gonna be funny. They all separate because Buffy's like, I should get gone too. And Giles offering her not to worry too much, but she declares it's Angel, which automatically means Maxie Wig. And we get our first wig watch because we got the word wig. At the factory, Dalton brings in the wooden box package that he was meant to get for Spike, laying it on the table with what Spike claims are other gifts, appearing before us in a wheelchair, visibly weak and still healing from bad burns with, obvious scarring on his face. Drusilla, finally not in white anymore. Like I said, she's serving this like red and black floral pattern silk dress, like, which actually looks pretty hot on her, I will say, for her to be a podcast stealing bitch. It looks good on her. She's hot in this time. Like, I'll just put it out there. Spike suggests that they should have had her party in Vienna because she's like, I'm set on being here in Sunnydale, actually. Like, this is where this evil needs to take place. And he's upset because he's feeling obviously really put down because he's in this fucking wheelchair. He's fucked up. He can't move, like barely. He can move his arms a little bit to wheel himself around. And other parts of the episode, she's wheeling his ass around. So I'm like, this is really sucky for Spike. And he's like, it doesn't seem to be happening for us here. The Slayer has seen to the fact that we're cursed in this town. Like every time we try to beat her, she's beat us back. And during this conversation, we're seeing like vampires decorate the space with candles and florals and all that. And Drusilla is like, okay, I'm gonna lick your cheek and assure you that like everything is happening the way we want it. Good games for everyone. You will see, she says. I'm like, why she lean down and lick his cheek? Like, what the fuck's wrong with him? Like, she's like, this tongue will heal your scars. Whenever like Spike was revealed in the wheelchair, did you have like any impulsive thoughts like in your mind? I know you were talking about him being in the wheelchair, but you're just like, what the fuck? Like, this is what happened to him? Or did you expect that for him to be like this badly injured?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I didn't know if it was going to be like as bad as it is, but I expected him to definitely be like the roles reverse type situation. I think I've said that before between him and Drusilla when they showed her carrying off our podcast name, aka Spike. When that instance happened, I feel like it was this immediate picture of like the way that we've seen Drusilla up until now, where she's kind of more the leadership and the force to be reckoned with and on their side of things. I definitely saw it as a roles reverse, so I wasn't surprised, but it was surprising to kind of like see him a little bit more mangled than I expected, like the scarring on his face and stuff. And I definitely think they just had her lick his face to show that she's gross. Because she like didn't do it on the side that the scars aren't on, she like intentionally like licked his scars, and I was like, no, they're just trying to skeeze us out with this bitch right now.
Literally though. Yeah. I guess whenever Buffy hit him in the back of the head and that fucking organ came crashing down on him, I guess it like broke his bones. And technically, like, even though he's a vampire and they heal a lot faster between the burning and like maybe the organ breaking like one or both of his legs, maybe his bones have to mend a little bit differently, and that just is going to take some time, you know what I mean? But this is like the position that Spike's in, which is super interesting. And after this bitch licks his cheek, she moves over to have a meltdown over some flowers that they're placing on the chairs. And she starts ripping them all the fuck over. And she's like, I can't abide them. This bitch is fucking crazy. I think I was like, this is her whenever I finally send a cease and desist letter for her not using the podcast name anymore.
She just rips it up.
This is how she, that's her.
I will not abide.
Spike tells the group to try something different. And this settles this crazy bitch. She drifts over to the boxes, asking if she can open one, catch a glimpse of her gifts, and he tells her that she can just take a peek, love, because he's always calling her love, before the party. Cool transition of the camera too, because it like leads into Spike's black shirt as he's wheeling himself up to the camera, and then the next shot like is the darkness of the inside of the chest that Drew opens up, and it exposes her, reminding me of like the scene from I Wrote About You, Jane, whenever we have like the pause on Moloch's book and they put the book in the box, and then next Buffy opens the box. You know what I mean? Like, I like the little transitions like that. It's just fun that they do with like cinematography. It's really cool. And she is pleased with this ravishing gift, as she says it reeks of death. It reeks of death. And she straddles Spike to tell him that this is going to be the best party ever. And he asks, why is that? And she declares, because it will be the last. And she closes the box back up. Did you have any idea like what was going to be in this box?
No, not at that moment. I didn't know,
yeah.
Because you just see the one thing and you're like, what the fuck could be so great in this one? Because it's not a big box. It's just a little box. So you're just like, what could be in
And
here?
it's
Like, is a demon gonna come out or what?
It's focused on that one box too, even though like Dalton brings the box in and sets it with the others, and there's like other wooden boxes here. So you're like, what the fuck is she looking at? Are they like little creatures? Like, because I remember thinking these things whenever I first watched it when I was a kid. I was like, are these like little critters in the box? Or are they monsters that are like sitting here dormant and they're going to unleash them on the town or something? Or like bigger components
Exactly.
for something? I
I
didn't know
just
what
thought
it
it
was.
was like many of the same thing. I
Yeah.
didn't at that point put together like components of one thing that
Yeah.
goes together like a puzzle or something. You know, I was more like, oh God, there's like the same repetitive thing in here. And she got like a dozen of these boxes. So like shit's about to get real. They're about to unleash fucking like a million Miss Frenches on the helmet.
A little praying mantises. They're the eggs that cracked at the end of the episode from that episode that left us on that cliffhanger. This is where they're finally coming back into contact.
JK, this is where they stored all the eggs from bad eggs. It's all the boxes full of bad eggs.
Exactly. Well, over at Buffy's house, preparing for the next school day, Joyce is reminding Buffy of their mall trip for her birthday Saturday, which is not likely to be forgotten when Joyce's art drug deal money is involved, thinks Buffy. Joyce wonders if 17 feels any different than 16. Buffy thinks that it's funny because it's feeling like licensed driver vibes, which Joyce told her they could talk about again when she was 17. And Joyce is doing dishes at this time, like whenever they're having this like dialogue, and turns around to look at Buffy and drops one of the dishes to the floor, and it breaks after she says in the same cadence, "Do you really think you're ready, Buffy?" And Buffy just looks down in fucking horror, and she's like, I gotta go to school right now. This conversation's over, bitch. Like, smoke your weed, I'm out. And
she's like, give me a joint.
And I love this next scene so much because this is where the intensity started building for you, like immediately as soon as we saw Jenny and this guy approaching, because we're obviously flash right over to the school day at Jenny's computer class. She's setting up for the day when a man appears in the room, startling her. She speaks to him about how she realizes that she hasn't written much lately due to a busy life. He's displeased and doesn't understand what's so important, that she's ignoring her responsibilities to her people, informing her that the elder woman of their tribe has been reading into the signs that something is different. And she's like, nothing has changed, that the curse still holds. And the man telling her that the elder woman is never wrong and that she can feel his pain is lessening. And by this point, we're probably like, who the fuck is she talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, who's this guy? Jenny hesitantly telling him that there is a girl. He is bothered that she would let this happen. Jenny assuring him that Angel still suffers. And this man is aggressive too. As soon as she tells him about this girl, he's just like, goes straight into yelling. Jenny's still trying to tell him Angel makes amends for his evil and that he's even saved her life before. And the man questions that Jenny has just forgotten about what he did to their most beloved daughter of their tribe, and that he is a monster. He killed every man, woman, and child that touched her life, basically showing that Angela's decimated their fucking village, essentially. Yelling at Jenny,
vengeance demands that his pain be eternal as ours is. If this girl gives him 1 minute of happiness, it is 1 minute too much.
And she apologizes, and he screams at her to tell her, what, do you think that you are Jenny Calendar now? No, you are still Yana of the 𝑘𝑎lDRASH people, a gypsy. And just right here, you're like, oh, fuck. Because you start having flashbacks to like the gypsy curse, the 𝑘𝑎lDRASH were the people that Angel mentioned that put the curse on him in his self-titled episode in season 1. And you're like, what the fuck? She looks back at him, asserting the fact that she knows, calling him her uncle. And he tells her to prove herself and make sure that she does what she can to take the girl from Angel. And he's like, it must end now. And Jenny agrees that she will see to it. Like I was about to say whenever we first started the scene, this is one of my favorite moments watching with you, because you get this big reveal about Jenny. Everybody gets this big reveal when you watch this, and you're like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Well, to be honest, I think I always wondered about Jenny since the beginning in a very subtle way. Like, sometimes I would forget that I was curious about her backstory because so much other stuff would happen in the forefront of everything, obviously. But there were a few times leading up to now where I do remember being like, you know what? Jenny sure is like, with as withdrawn as she got from Giles, and understandably so after certain instances, up until her like physical self was threatened or was in danger, she was so kind of receptive to a lot of the information and a lot of the unfoldings that I think normal people, even if you're into something like Buffy, if you see some weird shit happening in your town, in your school, before your eyes, I think that your organic reflex of a reaction is way more like reactive than a lot of the things that I've seen out of Jenny up until certain points. So I think it left a lot of doubt kind of like
Yeah.
sitting there, where I always wondered, like, where did she exactly come from and
Right.
why is she so cool with everything? She always game for stuff,
Mhm.
and you kind of understood it with the concept of like, oh, she's romantically interested in Giles, so that's an excuse. So it kind of almost eliminates the doubt. But when this reveal happened, I was like,
Yeah.
that's her purpose. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I did question it, but then I started questioning her intention after that, because it isn't really clear, like, you don't know at that point the full extent of what's going to happen if she does not separate Buffy and Angel.
Mhm.
So then it leaves you to assume that it's ill-intended almost. You're kind of like, well, why?
Mhm.
Why is it such a big deal? Like, we don't know what's going to happen if Angel has achieved happiness or whatever it is they're trying to avoid from happening. So you're left with like, oh shit, she's kind of a villain in a way,
Yeah.
because she's trying to like dismantle some sort of happiness here. So you're not really clear, and I wasn't clear. So after that, I questioned her intention, I think, more than anything. But it was interesting to have that reveal, because I was like, there were a few times I was like, where the fuck did she come from and why is she so chill?
Yeah. Well, you bring
Gosh,
up a good point, because whenever we saw her in I Wrote About You, Jane, she just came in and she's like, I'm a witch,
Mhm.
techno-pagan, but she's like, I already know about Moloch. And like, you're like, how do you just come up in here with all this stuff? You're like, I know there's a demon in the internet. And like, yeah, you live in Sunnydale. This could just be one of those like principal things. Like, you just took notice way more than the other people in this town that are stupid
Mhm.
because of this. But it's interesting how like they had not planned this arc for her at all. They, like I told you, they just episodes before this decided to take this shift with Jenny because it would make sense how to make her like into this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I love the layer of it, because obviously she's been there since the beginning, technically watching over Angel. It's canon now at this point.
Mhm.
And Buffy, and
That's
she's
actually so interesting, because I didn't know that they didn't plan that for her character. So it's kind of cool if you think about it. And when she came into the show, how open that was for them,
yeah.
as her character and the way they introduced her, because it was almost with this undertone of like, okay, let's throw her in this way, and then that way if later we want to take her backstory somewhere, we can.
Yeah.
No, because it wasn't like they gave it fully, or she had a reason for like being so like included all of a sudden in the group and whatnot. So that's actually really kind of cool if you think about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it comes as a blow to us, the audience, watching it, because we now notice that she's had what we would assume, because of just this scene, she's had an ulterior motive the whole time, and she's
Mm-hmm.
been betraying the gang, even though she's
Mm-hmm.
technically been helping them out. You know what I mean? Like helping them with demons or having all this happen. It almost kind of makes me angry with how she's been treating Giles over the whole Igon thing too,
100%.
because of this. I'm like, bitch, you're like actually put yourself and self-inserted in this position now, knowing all of this knowledge. So like, why'd you sit there and get all mad at Giles for you to just like 2 episodes later go and betray the whole gang and everybody find out that you're like been doing shady shit?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
I don't
totally.
know.
Yeah, it almost makes her feel like she's manipulating him
Hmm.
emotionally, because she doesn't have to take it that far. But she could almost use the excuse of wanting that to feel like what normalizes her and makes Giles not question anything
Yeah.
further, because her response is normal to her being in danger. You would back off from someone if you almost got killed for dating them or by dating them
Hmm.
or whatever. So I think her response is super normal, and it doesn't seem not authentic. Like, I think she was worried about her safety and she did want to back off, but I do think it creates a gray area for her, because she has a job to do, and her job is a secret, to Giles especially, who she's like romantically involved with. So you would think that if nothing else, she would have been honest with Giles and told him, maybe, because she knows Buffy's identity. So it's like, you know, why would you not, kind of thing. Like, I'm here to, because she's not doing anything. She's not trying to harm anyone. I would have told Giles if I was her, like, hey, I'm a gypsy. Here's what happened. I'm like watching over Angel, because Giles is going to be able to help you keep Buffy and Angel apart, if nothing
Hmm.
else. You know what I mean? If he knows that like all this impending doom could happen, I'm pretty sure he would have done like his part to help her,
Yeah.
like knowing what we know now, obviously. So yeah, it's interesting.
Looked into some reviews, and my favorite Shangels reviews wrote, watching Jenny's story in this episode is fascinating. After convincing Angel to leave Sunnydale with the judge's arm, you can see how conflicted she is. On the one hand, she's been raised to hate Angel and to make sure that Angel doesn't lose his soul. On the other hand, Angel has saved Jenny's life, and Jenny likes Buffy and wants to see Buffy happy. And I don't envy the fine line that Jenny has to walk during this episode. Angel has never hurt Jenny personally, and Jenny knows that the monster who tore apart her clan is technically long gone because he's at bay, like deep submerged within Angel.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was an interesting quote to say that, like, that's kind of, I think, where everything's gotten muddled, and that's why she's distanced herself from her uncle too with her conversations with him. She's like, I haven't written in a while, or I haven't spoken and reached out to you because I've actually been living, this Jenny calendar life. Like, I'm actually enveloped with these people. I care about these people. I've grown, like, and this is like the tall tale thing that kind of happens with people too. Even if you're going with something with an ulterior motive, she's fallen in love with Giles. She like really likes Buffy and likes her friends and sees that she's doing good by helping, and also sees that Angel's helping too because he's doing good to help everybody. Mm-hmm. So she's really, like they quoted, walking a fine line in between of like, where on the spectrum should I be in this? Can I still do my job and make sure that these two aren't getting closer together? Which she did not do a good job at, like, at all. But what is she supposed to do? Be walking around with them in bad eggs saying, y'all need to stop making out? Like,
exactly. No, I think that from her position, and we don't obviously know, or at least I don't know if this ever like comes into some sort of fruition conversationally on the show, but being that we don't know at this point what would happen if she revealed to others her part and what she's really there for. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you just? Because they trust you enough with all of this whole stuff that's going on, as far as Buffy and her being the Slayer and Giles being the Watcher and, the whole crew knowing and whatever. It's kind of like you're initiated into this very like private and kind of like meaningful and deep secret. And you would think that your best preventative approach to this would be to be honest and tell them, hey, here's the deal. Here's what'll happen if Angel successfully achieves happiness. Buffy, you and Angel are in love.
Need to put a
the
pause.
fastest key to his happiness is you. Unfortunately, the thing that we all have already known is that the two of you are not going to be able to successfully be together, and I'm here to make sure that that does not happen. So I'm just telling you that now. And if you get together, like, the world will end.
Literally,
or whatever you want to say,
however it would be, just like let them know the stipulations and stuff like that, because like it's funny because obviously we found out later with her next conversation with Uncle Anyos what exactly the stipulations to the curse are, because we've never known. Angel just knows he's cursed with a soul. He doesn't know that he can lose that soul, and like Jenny doesn't even technically know that, but obviously Uncle Anyos knows that, so he could have told Jenny like figure this out. Like, I don't know, but I guess he didn't expect for her to be getting buddy with Angel and the gang, you know what I mean? So
that's true.
He expected her to have a different perspective, and he's on the sidelines not knowing and witnessing what's happening with all of this. So it's very interesting.
I just wonder how they expected her to keep him from achieving happiness without getting close to him, because you'd have to know his life, and you'd have to know what brings him happiness to begin with, and you don't know that about someone without getting close to them, vampire or not. Like, it just is what it is. So unfortunately, she kind of in a tortured position herself just because of this curse that he's in. What can she really do? Even if she were honest, and that's just trying to be preventative, but what could she have done other than that? Like, nothing, because Buffy and Angel, as we know, are dead fucking set on being together in whatever capacity and for whatever time that they have to do it, but they're gonna fucking do it, and you know it. So it's kind of like, I would have been Jenny too and been like, I'm gonna just stop writing my uncle and I'm gonna say a prayer and hope it goes well, I guess, because that's all I got.
That's what she was doing. I love how we just went into like this full on like 12-minute conversation about Jenny Calendar that I did not expect, but I love it because honestly I think our audience will like this too. Now we have so much going on, we can actually divulge and discuss and like pull out these elements and like all of that, and I love that we just
and we know the characters better to be able to kind of have these more meaningful
them.
Conversations. We didn't know what to expect out of them before they were just getting their character build up. So
for right now we're just like sensing that Jenny is shady. I was about to say Shinny because she's a shady Jenny. Shinny.
That's her.
We'll call her that the rest of the episode. Shinny.
That's her gypsy name.
It's not Yana, it's Shinny.
It's Shinny.
Flashing over to the library though, Buffy is stressing the facts over her her part of her dream coming true to Giles and him understanding her alarmness as Xander and Willow walk in wishing her happy birthday.
Hey, it's the woman of the hour.
It's happy birthday, Buffy! Not happy birthday, Buffy?
Which sucks because Buffy really isn't feeling the happy part of the birthday vibes, and she's like looking down, like, because immediately when they come in with that, she just buries her head down and she's like looking sad. And then Giles has to tell the two of the dream and the reality, of the appearance of Drusilla and all of that. And Buffy's again worried about Drusilla from her dream. The biggest problem of it, worrying over Angel. Giles telling her dreams aren't prophecies. They can protect Angel if need be, but also reminding her of stopping the Master after the last dream she had. He's like, you defeated the Master, even though you had the dreams of the stuff that was going down with him. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right. And it settles her for a bit. And he offers that he will do some more research on Drusilla's patterns to try and stay ahead of the game, telling Buffy to meet him there that night to map out a strategy. Buffy leaves to go to be normal Buffy until that time arrives. I like that quote because he's like, go to class, have dinner, blah, blah, blah. She's like, right, be that Buffy. And I'm like, this is the Buffy you thrive to be. What are you talking about? Willow commenting on how the party must be off because Buffy's left the room at this point. She's like, it's a shame. I bought little hats and everything. And she guesses that she will go inform Cordelia that the party's off. She's like, oh, great. You're out of chips and dip. You don't got to bring your shit. And she's like, fuck, I already went to the store. Harris Teeter was closed and I had to go all the way to Publix. Like, what?
She's like, you don't got to worry about opening jars.
Cordelia got money. I don't know why she had to shop and carry, but I guess Uber Eats and deliveries weren't a thing back in the day. She couldn't do a Publix order. No pickup to go for that. She got to walk in and get the shopping cart and everything.
Cordelia be the type to leave a note for her shopper and be like, can you also bring the bags in, open the jars, and pour the dip in the bowls for me? Thanks.
And Giles cuts him off. He's like,
No, you won't. We're having a party tonight.
Looks like Mr. Caution Man, but the sound he makes is funny.
Buffy's surprise party will go ahead as we planned. Except I won't be wearing the little hat.
But Buffy and Angel.
May well be in danger, as they have been before, and I imagine will be again. One thing I've learned in my tenure here on the Hellmouth is that there is no good time to relax. But Buffy's turning 17 just this once, and she deserves a party.
You're a great man.
So unlike Giles too, but he cares for Buffy so much. He wants her to have her birthday party and feel like a little speck of normalcy, especially with all this going on. And after everything that has been going on this whole season, but obviously the last few episodes with Drusilla and Spike and all the intensity and the Slayer thing, double Slayer energy, all that. I think this is good on Giles' part to keep rolling with the party. So that way Buffy can just have some kind of experience of a normal birthday. This is also Buffy's 17th birthday, just like every age. You only turn this age once, but this is I think it's classic that 17 kind of marked the preemptive stages of adulthood. Because whenever you're 17, I know 18 you can buy cigarettes and do stuff like that, but 17 was originally in the 90s the age of consent, which is interesting that they're doing this take on having sex and everything that for the age of 17 that Buffy's turning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I love that Giles kept the party rolling more than anything, because we would assume that it would be over. Normally Giles would be like, no, we're not having the party. This is we need to all start doing the research. We need to cancel all the plans. And Giles is like, 100%. Fuck no, we're still having that party, motherfuckers.
Yeah, but I think he feels bad for her too. There's so much he's had to watch her kind of not be able to enjoy. That's all very normal teenage stuff, and it's all been tainted with one thing or the next as far as her Slayer duties are concerned, or just some bullshit happening.
Yeah.
And I think she already came in, to the library in a kind of sad or more
glum,
negative
worried,
state of
she's got heavy stuff pushing
especially
down
on your
her
birthday.
Yeah.
That sucks to come in, and that's the first thing that people see of you on your birthday when they probably expected you to be at least in a little bit of a good mood, and they don't know you just had this very traumatizing dream, and then all this stuff is kind of making that feel more valid and concrete as the day goes on. So your worry and your anxiety is intensified, and you probably done forgot altogether it's your birthday at this point because you're just like, what the fuck is life even anymore? What's gonna happen? So he probably feels so bad, and he's like, you know what, we're doing this party, and if nothing else, she can be distracted for 2 hours and forget that life sucks right now.
No, she can't, because as we know, this episode just continues to get worse and worse and worse for Buffy's birthday.
It gets worse.
Appearing that night, though, Buffy is arriving at the school to meet Giles, getting startled by Ginny in the halls, who just like pops out of fucking nowhere. And she's like, oh, Giles wanted me to tell you that plans have changed and he wants me to, like take you somewhere to meet him. When she's like, my car is right around here. I can drive you. Like Ginny is so quick to be like, oh, I can do everything for everybody this episode. I'm all of a sudden a giver. Sketch as fuck, too. The feeling of this whole interaction, like, I love what they're doing here, making us think Ginny truly is up to no good, too, because as Buffy walks off to kind of lead the way, Ginny, like, kind of eyes her and walks, like, with that weird little, like, head, like, motion, you know what I mean? Like, almost like, I've got you thing. Like, it's very interesting. And then we arrive at the Bronze, outside of it anyways, as, she's driving up with Buffy, and Buffy's questioning like the location. She's like, are we going to the Bronze? And Jenny's like clueless. She's like, oh, I don't know. Giles just gave me this address. As they pull up and vampires are loading up a truck with items, Buffy telling her to stop. This looks funky. Jenny says, well, maybe you shouldn't get involved. Buffy claiming that she must.
Sorry, sacred duty, yada, yada, yada.
She gets out and walks up, realizing the vampire loading stuff is the same one we saw retrieving Duloc's cross from the tomb in What's My Line, aka Dalton, calling out to him that every time she sees him, he appears to be stealing something. And he stops and growls at her because he's like, fuck, and is surprised that she's there. And her adding,
I really should speak with someone about this klepto issue.
Kleptomania. Like, I thought that was so funny. And like, Buffy's always got this banter. You're in the face of danger and you're just like picking at these vampires. It's like she knows she's stronger technically, you know what I mean, than your measly, like, run-of-the-mill vampire. It's just funny as fuck. Buffy has always been this way and will always be this way. The truck starts and door opens up as a vampire gets out and attacks Buffy, kind of taking her by surprise, giving Dalton the chance to kind of like make away with the package, or try to anyways. Others on the truck around her are pulling her onto its tail bed. She fights them all off at once, too, ripping off a chunk of wood from its railing, staking one of them. We get an off-screen slay for that. And inside the Bronze, we see, like, Buffy's party is all set up with decor, and the gang is, like, hiding behind, like, the pool tables. And they're like, shh, I think I hear her coming. And it's like, we know what's going on outside, but you can hear kicks and punches and like commotion outside
and
like,
grunts and stuff. Yeah, it's like very
coming, like
obviously a fight going on.
The other vampire outside throws Buffy off the truck and into the back wall of the Bronze, and that's like when everybody starts like taking notice that it's punching sounds, because they're like, what the fuck? They just heard that Buffy's whole body hit the fucking wall. And Buffy comes in the window, that's the blackout glass that she threw the thing in the harvest to like fool Luke with. She breaks that thing once again, so this is the second time Buffy's ruined something at the Bronze, the same exact window. But it's a cool scene because she crashes through and tumbles with the vampire. She kicks him to the side, and like it actually kind of is like a like little slow motion kick, just showing she's doing her thing. The vampire is trying to get back up to his feet, and in that same motion she's spun over there, like literally spun away from him, grabbed the fucking drumstick off the drum set that's sitting right there on the stage, spins and then stakes him, and we get a really cool fucking like takedown of this vampire, and we get another epic 2K per slay. This is 2 for the episode, so they got the budget for Buffy's birthday apparently. I put in capital letters in my notes, what an entrance. I've arrived at my birthday party in literal Buffy style, slaying a vampire. But also, again, in literal Buffy style, because her life sucks and she's just trying to get to her birthday party. And this is what's happening. And it's a fun time to note, too, that like, even though they were trying to breadcrumb us that Jenny was doing something wrong, Giles had told Jenny, like, hey, can you, like, meet Buffy at the school and bring her to the party so that way she has no clue what's going on? Because if, like, Willow's like, I'm taking you somewhere, or, you know, Xander or whoever, she's going to, like, clue in that, like, something's going on maybe for her birthday. But with Jenny being here, it's a fucking foolery moment for us, but it's also, like, confusing for Buffy to be like, oh, okay, well, like, Jenny wouldn't be doing something weird. She's just taking me to meet Giles at his house or whatever.
For a second, because that's the shit I hate the most. It's always the people you don't know. It's just like why I felt so bad for everyone when they're like drugged up on Ted's cookies or they're possessed by something, because I'm like, it's not fair for the people who aren't in those like altered states of being to be around people that are seemingly the people that they trust the most, but they're not, because there's someone else at that time. So this is one of those instances too where instantly I was like, no, don't go anywhere with Jenny, get out of the car, run away. Like I was like, don't trust her. Because you said they create that illusion where you don't know what's going on, and then you expect her like to, you know, I don't know, kidnap Buffy and take her far, far away because she don't want her interacting with Angel anymore.
All the things, literally, like so many elements. Well, after Buffy slays the vampire, Oz is just like looking stunned. If you really look at his face, he's just like, what the fuck? And Willow looks over at him as Cordelia busts out after this commotion, jumping up from her hiding spot to yell,
Surprise!
I love that iconic shot because everybody just turns to look at her and they're like, what the fuck? And then Oz states, he's like, yeah, that pretty much about sums it up. Like, this is the surprise. Giles and Angel ask if Buffy's okay, asking what happened, and she starts telling them, like, she's like, there were these vamps outside, but she's more concerned with what the fuck's going down in the bronze at the Momes. Gets a surprise party Giles offers. Buffy is happy that they did this all for her. This is so sweet. And Angel asks if she's okay and assures that she's fine. Willow taking that moment to ask Oz if he's okay. And he's like, yeah, but questions everyone. He's like,
Yeah. Hey, did everybody see that guy just turn to dust?
Oh, well, sort of.
Yep, vampires are real. A lot of them live in Sunnydale. We'll fill you in.
Willow tries to be like, I understand this might be hard to accept at first. And he cuts her off and he's like, actually, it explains a lot.
I forgot for a second that he was even there because like so much was happening. So when they panned in on his face, it took me like a moment to have that epiphany where I was like, wait, he doesn't know like anything that's going on, you know? So right away I was like, oh shit. But then when I don't know if it's just part of his character, he's just another one I'm suspicious of basically because his reaction wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now I'm like, well, Oz, where did you come from and who are you really and what's going on? Or is that just you're just like elusive all the time? Because he could be, because he's kind of like spacey, you know, he like looks like he just stepped out of the hippie van and like smoked 3 joints with Joyce.
Exactly.
So he could be high. So like, you know. But it did create the same undertone I had with Jenny where I was like,
I wrote in my notes, I love his atypical reaction because that's the kind of character he is. He's atypical because most people would be stoned, but he stoned. You said stoned. Most people would be stunned, but he's so mellow. He's like, okay, I figured because like obviously like he probably has this like really reclined setback and viewpoint of things. Like he takes notice of things probably a little bit differently. So he's just like whatever. But this obviously serves as a big welcome into the group for him more than anything. It's not necessarily that he's up to anything. It's just the fact that he's like getting involved with Willow now. So they're like, how can we integrate
100%.
him best into this and let him know like vampires exist and whatever. And it just goes to show that Oz is not aloof. He's actually taking notice and like notice that weird stuff happens to this town because of who he is. He's not like all these other people that be like, oh, I'm going to out of sight, out of mind, that someone pretend this instance didn't happen. He's probably been like clued into some weird stuff happens in this fucking town that he's residing
100%.
in, you know? So,
yeah. Well, and it shows for going forward that he's able to hang with the situation, so it doesn't pose a threat to the connection that's building up for him and Willow. Because that's kind of what I was most worried about. I was like, at the end of the day, I don't almost care where he came from because I just don't want the connection to get tarnished.
He can handle the
him and
strange
Willow.
things.
Yeah, and because he's so like atypical, which is a good way to put it. It's good. It works out kind of in this instance where he's not, you know, because you would be like running for the fucking hills or at least be on edge at this birthday party for the rest of the night, like ready to go home into the safety of your bedroom and hide under the covers and pretend that shit didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like
you
know,
fuck.
so his reaction bodes well, at least for the situation with Willow. And I was happy about that. I was like, oh yes, he's not like Jenny where he's going to take 1,000 steps back and be like, I'll ignore you and be an asshole and we'll never talk again.
Well, Jenny walks in carrying that wooden box that the creeps left behind. They place it on the table to open it up, and once they do, we see it's an arm adorned medieval style with chained wardrobe, and they all look confused when the arm rises and grabs Buffy's throat, choking her. And then we like get a little clip, we go to a fake commercial, and we come back in, and it's still choking the fuck out of her. And they finally get it off of her, and like it looks like it's a struggle. It's just a fucking arm all the way up to like the glenohumeral joint. People don't know what that is. That's your shoulder where it connects into like your actual torso. That arm has a lot of power for it to just be a floating fucking arm, you know? But Xander remarks, what do you get for the Slayer that has everything? You know, the Hellmouth produces the perfect gift. Angel puts some pieces together, telling them that there's a legend way before his time of a demon brought forth to rid the earth of humanity, separating the righteous from the wicked, burning the righteous down. They called him the judge. Giles, having heard of this, questions, this is him? This is the judge? And it's kind of like drops really quick because the whole like room goes cold, like between Giles and Angel giving the backstory of this. You're like, what the fuck? They're both very worried about this character. Giles is like, this is the judge. Well, it's a part of him. Giles giving us a little bit more of a history class because Buffy needs the backstory.
He couldn't be killed, yes? An army was sent against him. Most of them died. But finally they were able to dismember him, but not kill him.
Angel finishing pieces of him were scattered separately across the earth. Jenny questioning, well, all the parts are being brought here. Buffy connecting the dots to Drusilla, since those were Spike's men outside. Angel declaring that she's just crazy enough to do it. Duh. And steal people's podcasting. Just to bring back the judge and bring forth Armageddon, destruction to everybody. I like this moment too, because right after we get the fucking, I don't know, the history lesson, like I called it, the big stakes that are here, like if they are bringing this judge together that can end the world, that intensity builds, and then Cordelia just calls out, is anybody else gonna have cake? Like, she's like unamused with this story and being her normal self in Cordelia fashion. Goes off to do that too. She just like walks off like like, what the fuck? And Giles says that they need to get the arm out of town. Jenny quick to say, Angel can do it. Angel, I vote Angel. Like, she's like,
I know, just throw him to the world.
Fucking, well, we see why, but she's like, Angel's tribute. He's the one. Buffy asking, well, what about me? And Jenny's like, well, you can't skip town for months, can you? Like, Angel's the next in the strong line. Also, like, you know, he can handle like any situations that are thrown at him. Let's send Xander, I vote. And Angel does agree with Jenny though, and he's like, I can take a boat to do as such, since vamps can't really fly, you know, because Buffy's like, you know, you can take a plane and be back in a couple of days. He's like, bitch, like, how am I going to do that if my plane ticket says that I'm like supposed to sit in a window seat on the sunniest day in the world? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he claims to not like the plan that they have to roll with, and she asks when, and he's like, well, I need to leave like ASAP with this to get it out of town if they're bringing boxes here, whatever. And Buffy is sad. She's like, but it's my birthday. And we're like, oh, as Jenny comes in between them immediately, and she's like, I can drive you to the docks. Like, how nice of you, Jenny. But also I'm like, bitch, like, I just want to push her off the screen. Well, she's doing what she told him that she would do, and honestly, this is working in Jenny's favor that this instance has happened. You know, she just had to wait 5 more minutes for like the next week's villain to come in to help keep her original plan and like what she's been set out to do in motion. And then we flash over to the factory, and Drusilla is scolding Dalton for losing her fucking box, and she is not happy at all, and she is very cross with him. But you know what will make her feel better? Stomping on his glasses, which she does. She's like telling him to make a wish too, because the next thing that she says, she's like, I'm gonna blow out the candles, raising 2 fingers too, like she's gonna pierce his eyes. And I was like, potentially next to be asking him if he's got something in his eyes. She's about to do the master's key fucking thing. And Spike cluing Drew in to possibly give the wanker a chance to redeem himself. If he fails again, then she can eat his eyes out of his sockets for all he cares. And this like evokes him to swear that he will get it. He's like, oh, I'll get it. Please no eyeball torture. I'm good. Like, because he's just frail little fucking like he's a mockery for a vampire because he's like scared and whittled. Like, he definitely is like the worst guy that ever got fucking turned. I want to know which vampire sired this motherfucker. It was like, he needs to live forever. One. Not at all.
Darla.
And Drusilla snaps out of her frenzy to pick up his broken glasses that she smashed on the floor, placing them back on his face. And I'm always sent over the roof. I was with you too. I was laughing. You're like, Brandon, shut up. We're trying to watch the episode. But I thought it was just so funny because before he leaves to go get the box, she's just like, okay, off you go then. Buffy and Angel in our next scene arrive at the docks for Angel to board a boat there. She is sad that he has to be gone for a long while, with fears that they may not see each other again, since, you know, someone always wants them dead. And he tries to assure her that they will be fine, but she's crying and really upset over this. And he tries to cheer her up when he reveals her birthday present to her, and it is a ring that he holds out before her that he pulls from a sachet, and he calls it a 𝒕'𝒠 ring, silver with 2 hands holding a heart that has a crown upon it. Stunned by its beauty, he tells her of its story.
My people, before I was changed, they exchanged this as a sign of devotion. It's a 𝒕'𝒠 ring. Hands represent friendship. The crown represents loyalty. And the heart, you know.
You guys, like, I'm in love. He also mentions how she should wear it with the heart facing towards her, meaning that she belongs to somebody like his, which he shows her on his finger, letting her know that he belongs to her as our love theme kicks in and she kisses his ring. And I was like, that's cute. She didn't even go for a kiss of his lips. She like kisses his ring so that way while he's departed, every time he looks at it, he knows the last thing that like touched his ring was her lips type thing. Super cute, but also kind of weird that she kisses his ring. Like, personally, I'm just like, okay, it's interesting. But it's sentimental. I get what that put it there. That's why I just said what I said. She puts on her ring and they share tears and actual kisses. Just as Angel is about to tell her that he loves her, they are attacked by Spike's crew of vampires, ruining their moment. They duel them Buffy sending a series of punches to that one vamp, clearly pissed the fuck off at their bad timing because, you know, they just interrupted their like most intimate moment. And like whenever she goes in on that vampire, she's like bam, 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 bam. I'm like, oh fuck, like this vampire, like I feel bad. He's like that vampire with the trash can lid from Ted, like, you know what I'm saying? While busy though, Dalton swoops in to grab that fucking box and starts to run off with it, but thankfully Angel tackles him for a second. But unfortunately, the vampire that was dealing with Buffy throws her over the pier and into the harbor's water. As another vampire grabs the box and runs off, Angel chooses to jump in the water after Buffy, because I guess the vampire punched Buffy and kind of knocked her unconscious, because the next clip we see is her floating in the water whenever Angel jumps in. Like, that bitch is unconscious and about to drown. I'm like, here we go, Buffy drowning again. Like, season 1 finale coming through. Buffy's like, I died twice by drowning. Special note here too, though, obviously we made mention of you and Buffy's birthday coinciding for our recordings, and your birthday is on the 10th, and this episode will be airing on the 11th. So hey, everybody that's listening today and in future. But since I met up with Courtney a couple weekends in advance to watch these episodes, I brought her birthday presents with me as well to give to her, and one of her birthday presents included a 𝒕𝒕 ring, and I was like, it just makes sense to give you this. Like, I'd planned it for a long time, and I knew it, like, since we started the show, that I was going to give you this, especially once I found out your birthday was going to like be around the time that this was airing. I was like, oh, this couldn't be more perfect. So Courtney has a 𝒕𝒕 ring. I've had one that my mom got me, I think in our intro episode that just discusses us and who we are, like before we started the podcast, I talked about how my mom had got me like when I got my Xbox for Christmas and got the Buffy video game and all this other stuff, and I like kind of breadcrumb people back then and said that my mom had one final gift in the tree for me, and I didn't tell anybody, I don't think, what it was, and it was actually a 𝒕𝒕 ring. Like when I was 12, my mom, I thought this is like my favorite memory of her, honestly. One of the most biggest things that I think I'll take to my grave with my mom and always remember her is how my mom never watched a single episode of Buffy unless it was like she was walking around in the background and I was sitting in front of the like living room TV glued to the screen. Like, you know, that was basically me all the time. Or in my room watching my DVDs. That's all she ever had to hear about, though, was Buffy. But my mom, I guess, went into my bedroom and like looked at my Buffy box sets and saw like the season 2 cover has Angel's ring very visibly displayed on the red box set. And she's like, oh, I know this has to do with Buffy. I don't know the context of it, but I'm going to get him this 𝒕𝒕 ring. And that was a special, like the final gift that I opened that Christmas. She's like, she had this mentality of, I'm going to save the best for last because I know this is going to mean something to Brandon. And I don't think she really knew how much that was going to mean to me, because I still wear it to this day, except for when I'm giving people massages, because obviously I don't want to like be grinding their body up with metal. But like as soon as my shift's in for the week and I have my 3 days off, I immediately put my ring back on, and I absolutely love this thing. It's one of my most prized possessions that I've had for the longest time, as I sit here and look down at it, looking like Buffy in Innocence whenever she goes to peel it off and start crying on her bed. But there's a little story for you guys, special time. So me and Courtney think we're cool as fuck because we got 𝒕𝒕 rings now. We're basically Buffy and Angel.
But I did think it was special too, because obviously since I've known you, you've had that ring on your finger, and I've always noticed it. And I think you told me before that your mom got it for you, like maybe when we first met or something. I probably asked, like when I noticed that you wear it all the time. And I think you just kept it at that. You probably knew, like, I didn't watch Buffy or whatever, so I don't think you elaborated any further. Yeah. So to me, it was kind of a new, like we always say, I find out new things about you from doing this podcast, and this was one of those times where, like, I got the full concept and meaning of the ring, and to me it's really meaningful because I've literally seen it on your finger this entire time we've been friends, which has felt like my whole life. So yeah, it's to have one too feels really special because now I feel like we're bonded or somehow too, you know.
I love how like whenever you put it on, you like slipped it on with the ring facing towards you, and I was like, you all in a relationship with a woman, but you're like, I'm also in a relationship with Brandon.
I'm like, it's pointing towards you.
All right, well, over in the library, Giles is concerned that they should have been back by now. Willow offering, well, maybe Buffy had to pull herself together, having been a lot to handle for her birthday and everything. Xander going on about his fantasies when Angel's out of the way as Buffy comes in too. That whole dialogue was just funny, but it's also stupid because he's like, I told you the part where she cries, and she's like, Xander, shut up, like, because they're walking in. And then like here at this moment too, wearing that outfit that we saw her in Reptile Boy, we can see that she's changed clothes and she has those giraffe print pants on. And I mentioned it to you while we were there watching the episode, but I'm going to mention it for the viewers because I said I was going to bring it back up. In Reptile Boy, whenever Buffy and Willow were talking about the sexy dreams that Buffy was having about her obviously having sex with Angel, This is directly paralleling this episode about the dreams and sexual activity with Angel happening, because that's what happens at the end of this. And it's a big, like, subtle foreshadow. I would say it's big, but it's subtle foreshadowing, but it's for a big moment. And I was like, it's so interesting, like, because we never see regurgitated outfits on this show. But between then and now in this episode, those are the pants that she technically takes off to have sex with Angel later. You know what I mean? It's just, it's very interesting that
That's
like,
crazy.
this showed up
Yeah.
like that. I don't know if that was for an intention-based thing or like what, but I don't know. It's just interesting that I found that out. And like, that's the only time like I really see her wear a secondary outfit again. Like obviously it's a show that has, you know, a wardrobe department, so they try to style them in something of the times every episode, keep it fresh and rejuvenating, where like in technical reasoning, no person that's a 16-year-old girl living in some, you know, low budget Sunnydale town has this many outfits to like cycle out a new outfit every single day and just throws away the other ones. And I wear the same shirt. Like I wore this I Know What You Did Last Summer shirt I'm wearing today like 4 times in the last 2 weeks. Like, you know what I mean? Like either way. Buffy tells the gang about the ambush, claiming Jenny took Angel to get new clothes, and Xander's like, well, what happened to you guys? And she's like, we got wet. And it's a little moment for some sexual humor, but also has meaning. And I'll say what that means later, but it's a specific wet, and water has to do with this episode a lot. We'll talk about it at the end of next episode in the metaphor section. Buffy asks Giles what they know, and he is fearful of the judge, saying his touch can literally burn the humanity out of a person, aka killing them, and that only a true creature of evil can survive the process. Humans cannot. And I like how he puts this very specific. He's like, only a true creature of evil, because obviously we see what happens the next episode when the judge touches a certain someone. Xander, aka Angel. Xander, I'm not trying to break on people, even though I know it instance what happened to Xander offering perfect. They send Cordy to face him, and it saves the day. He's trying to say she's so evil that she can defeat the judge. I'm like, fuck you, Xander. But also, it's really funny. A gentle fuck you, Xander. Buffy, ignoring him, wonders if the judge can be stopped without said army that defeated him back in the day, and Giles concludes that no weapon forged can kill him, and brings in a whole new intensity of things. Not only can he just destroy people like instantly with humanity in them, you know, once he's assembled, he's basically unkillable, because it took an army, literally like thousands of men fucking chopping at his ass to disassemble him the last time. They talk about how they need to find where they would keep him. Giles saying it could take time, which means around Robin. It's that thing where they all call each other's parents and lie to each other, saying we're staying at the other person's house, freeing them up for a night of research and world savage. 2 a.m. hits on the clock as Willow gushes to Xander about Oz being so cool about all of this. And he's like, oh, I'm over it. Like, I'm like, once again, fuck you, Xander. Like, your friend's trying to be like cute about him, but you're, you know, jealous because not everybody's paying attention to Xander. Angel and Giles start to discuss their findings as we see Buffy has passed out sleeping in Giles' office, and they're being loud. So Giles is like, shh, be quiet. She's in there sleeping. She needs some rest. And apparently she's having another dream. This time she's in the factory as we go into her dream in what I call Drusilla's white gown, because she appears in a white gown, seeing Jenny pass by ominously in the distance, and she tries to follow but notices all the boxes of the judge that they have laying in spectrum of each other, close vicinity, the vicins. Kneeling down to open one as she hears Drew call out in the room like, hands off my presents. And obviously in this moment when she turns around, she brings a blade up to Angel that she's standing behind, and Buffy's like, no, and wakes up, and Angel just happens to be sitting right beside Buffy with her while she's sleeping, and she like clings to him, and he's like, it's okay, it was only another dream. And she's like, yeah, but my dreams are turning out to be bullshit, so like bruh, I'm worried. And I wrote my notes like, here we have the white again. Both Buffy and Drusilla are wearing the same white dress in this episode too. So it's like these parallels of white, of innocence, because white being purity, the next episode's called Innocence. It's all a setup. And it's like, if you had like a sacrifice happening too, or you're sacrificing the virgin, they always put them in white. We talked about white back in the day too, with like Buffy's prophecy girl outfit and all this stuff as well. So it's interesting how this like is bringing it up. And then we get a little like air of cutscene transition magic, because Buffy's eyes turn and fade into Drusilla's eyes over at the factory, whose party is well underway. She claps, cue the music, and then Transylvania Concubine by Rasputina plays, and song's a fucking vibe. She's in love with this song, as I am.
More music.
She dances around as Spike he wheels up the final box because it's in his lap and he's rolling up. He's like, this is the last piece, and it's the fucking head to the judge. I'm like, they found all the parts and the head was last, and they've already assembled the boxes and they're just waiting to put the fucking head on. I'm like, why couldn't it be the arm? Why couldn't it have been a leg, like a foot, a toe? Like, what is happening? Thumbs up. It's funny because they won't understand, but we understand. And then obviously they place the head on. The light emanates from the box, and we can see that it's assembling the judge. And once it opens up, which it's so funny because the boxes are disassembled and they all open up together, like all the doors to it. And it shows that last little piece of like electricity moving through the judge as he's been sealed back into one being. And it's a blue fucking demon with black eyes and multiple horns protruding from his head, now whole again. And Drusilla's just like, he's perfect, my darling. Just what she wanted. He stumbles to get footing, making his way over to Drusilla as if to harm her, because like he's like, you, and Spike is like, whoa, wait, what the fuck? And he's like, you two, you stink of humanity. Spike reminding him that they are the ones who brought him here, and they put him back to Ged's. So Drusilla needs to be off his like, kill list, because apparently he's like, I'm gonna fucking dust you guys immediately, which he should have done, because then we wouldn't have the problems that we're left to deal with. And Drusilla is like, listen, since we brought you back and you want to kill us, why don't you take a party favor instead? And points to the other vampires in the room. She's like, pick one. And of course, he's like, that one. And it's poor Dalton standing over there. And he's like, wait, what? And the vampires grab him and bring him towards the judge. And Spike's confused. He's like, wait, I thought you could just zap him from across the room. And the judge is like, well, I'm not strong enough yet. I need to make contact until my full strength is back, which he does by placing a hand on Dalton's chest, incinerating him in fiery ashes as he disappears into nothing. And Drusilla loved this because she's like begging him. She's like,
Do it again.
which I personally love when she does this, because she's already had it in for Dalton for multiple episodes now. So is Spike. And we just knew that he had to meet his demise some way or another, because this is like the treatment that he's been getting in his meetings with Buffy. Like if Buffy wasn't going to dust him, somebody needed to take him out. So I guess why not be the judge? But also the judge saw him as easy. He's like, this one, he reads. He's full of humanity. And I'm like, okay. Kind of sucks for him. And then obviously like the follow-up of Drew's unhinged reaction, like it really makes me laugh. Like I've always loved it since childhood, and I still love it to this day. At the school, Buffy tells Giles of her dream, saying that she thinks she knows where Spike and the others are, saying her plan is to do recon with Angel while they check any places the boxes could be coming into town in order to stop them from getting all the boxes in one place. But unfortunately, they already have. A rather good plan Giles is on board with. He's like, look at my Slayer doing all the shit. Her and Angel leave and arrive at the factory, creeping up above its higher level, looking down into the room of vamps. I love how it just flashes scenes too. She's like, we're going to go check the factory. And then all of a sudden we're bam at the factory. Spotting the judge come walking in too, and realizing that he is assembled, they're like, oh fuck. And Buffy's definitely taken aback because like her eyes are already bulging out her fucking forehead. I'm like, girl, like, she's like, I do not want to fight that thing. And I'm like, yeah, you don't want to either, because the second you touch him, he's going to incinerate you. Whether he's touching you or you're touching him. And it's kind of creepy too, because like they're up there out of sight, and the judge just stops sensing something as Spike is like, what is it? And then he growls and turns and looks directly in Buffy's fucking face, and then her fucking eyes bulge even more out her damn face, and she's like, oh fuck. But then they go to run off and then are quickly ambushed on both sides by vampires who bring them down to floor level. And Spike's like, crashers. He's like, get the fuck out of here, you weren't invited. But Buffy, she's like, I'm sure our invite just got lost in the mail. It's like, this bitch is about to meet her demise, and she's over here still quipping and making jokes. I'm like, we love her. And Drusilla's over here like, this is delicious, looking to Angel. She's like, I only dreamed you'd come. And then she's doing her iconic because she's a fucking like dog or some shit. Like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Angel screaming out to leave Buffy alone, but he didn't say pretty please, retorts Spike. The girl, the judge says as he smirks, and Drusilla is chiming in to say, chilling, isn't it? She's so full of good intention. Angel shoves himself in front of her, saying to take him instead of her. Spike raising a hand to be like, sorry, mate, that's not how it works. There will be no instead of, just first and second. Drusilla adding he won't go first so that he can watch the Slayer die, because, you know, if he's gone, he can't see Buffy get mutilated. They struggle as the judge moves over towards Buffy, trying to place a hand on her, and she kicks him in the chest as Angel screams, no, not to touch him, knocking him back. And you hear that little, like, whenever she does make contact with him, you hear like that weird zap noise almost that like kind of plays out whenever he finally executes somebody, just showing, because obviously Buffy makes the comment later whenever she kicked him, she felt like an instant fever come over her, like she felt sick or something.
Yes.
But obviously with this distraction of her kicking him, Angel has started to look around and he notices those TVs that have been hanging that, you know, Spike was watching Buffy fight the vampire on Halloween in. They're still hanging up there, and he like pulls the chain and knocks them down, and obviously they land on the judge, but also causes a big crater to fall on the floor, and they jump down underneath the crater into the sewers so that way they can escape as the vampires drop down and start to chase after them. They hide as they pass in the little door that just conveniently is there that the vampires do not check. And then they exit to above the ground via ladder right out into the park as it pours heavy rain. They run off to Angels because they're like, we can't get wet. We already got wet one time this episode. We need to escape the weather and hide out. Buffy, cold and shaking once they get inside Angel's apartment. He gets her some clothes, telling her to change and get under his bed covers to warm up. She starts to change as he turns it back to her, giving her some privacy. And I love that too, because he's like super modest. Like Xander Harris would be over there without the mirror being like, oh, I'm going to look at you. Like, you know what I mean? And whenever he turns her back to her, she winces in pain, having a scratch on her back. And he offers to check it out for her. He sits by her on the bed to realize that the mark has already closed. And I don't know if other people see it this way, but whenever Buffy like sees that his back is turned to her and they're in this vulnerable situation in his room and all this stuff, like when she winces in pain, like from this little tiny scratch, I'm like, is she just doing this so he turns around and comes over there and like checks her back and like has this moment to like take her bra strap off of her, and you know what I mean, almost like she's trying to seduce him in a way, like, because that's what I've always read it as, because he's like, when he gets over there, he's like, it's already closed. Like, she's just trying to get his ass over there to sit on the bed with her. Like, Buffy, we clocking your ass. You want that angel dick, and I get it. I totally get it.
It was a total manipulation move, but in the best way.
For sure. And obviously her back is exposed as he checks for it and stuff, and she nestles back into him for comfort, and he holds her, stating that he almost went away today, and him saying that she nearly did also. Basically, when she kicked the judge, almost got killed. She cries and tells him that she feels like she lost him, bringing up the drama again. He gently shushes her, beginning again to tell her what he wanted to earlier, and she turns to face him because she's like, you what? And then he tells her for the first time, clearly and visibly, because he didn't say it back and lie to me, I love you. And he gets swept up in this I love you too, because he's like, I try not to, but I can't stop. And she agrees that she can't either. And then they're kind of like both almost crying in this sense. And then she definitely is, because she's an emotional ball of wreck this fucking episode. The two kiss and they start to gain intensity, but he pulls away saying,
Maybe we should.
Just kiss me.
The two make out, and we see them lie back onto the bed as the screen fades to white, flashing immediately back into them laying naked under the bed sheets, clearly just after having sex. Dramatic thunder and lightning flash as Angel jumps out of bed, gasping as if something's wrong. We next see him clothed, crashing outside of his apartment into the alley in the pouring rain again, screaming out in writhing pain as he falls to the ground saying no and hollering out Buffy's name. We fade to black as To Be Continued comes across the screen, and here endeth the episode.
Dun dun dun.
Bro, I know, like we said, we know what happens in Innocence, and we'll obviously discuss that next week, but like, at this point, you were like, what is happening, Brandon? Like, you're like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, you don't get it yet? Like, you don't know? And you're like, no. So like,
no.
Any thoughts running through your head, or you're just like push play on the next episode after we go outside and smoke and get married at that point?
Yeah, I was more perplexed and confused. I didn't know if there was like a sudden health crisis happening. Like, I was like, damn, bro, you just like straight leapt right into a fucking heart attack. Like, damn. And then I started thinking all these other things, you know, because now I did start connecting dots of like, okay, he's happy. This is what Jenny was trying to prevent. It still wasn't clear to me what was happening with him, though, internally, or like why he was experiencing all this stuff that suddenly was like randomly dragging his own ass outside in the pouring rain just to yell Buffy's name from the street when he was just laying next to her. Like, I had so many questions. I was like, first off, if you need help, bitch, why did you put your jacket on and run outside? Like, she was right there.
I think at that point, parts of his psyche was like pulling him in and out. Like, I think the other entity within him was trying to get out, like, and stuff like that. And like he was feeling that tear between, like, of losing everything, and he didn't know what to do. He was very confused, didn't know exactly what. But he had time to get fully dressed again and then go run outside in the rain and get wet. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
I'm just like,
very interesting choice, but obviously they couldn't have that happen in the room because then Buffy would have woke up, and then it wouldn't have had the big surprise for next episode and like all the stuff that happens as we're like.
Right.
Leading
they
into
ultimately
everybody
had
finding
to
out.
be separated. And of course, then it creates the whole very cliche dismissiveness of dudes. You know, once they like have sex with the girl that they've been after for a while, then they turn into someone else kind of situation. You don't really see them, or they can bail like before you wake up in the morning, one night stand, like whatever. So you're thinking like you don't know where this is going, and you just are so fucking like, you're confused about what's happening to Angel. You don't know if he's going to just like randomly pass away from a stroke. Buffy's going to wake up and he's obviously not going to be there. You don't know if she's going to find him dead in the street or if he's going to be gone altogether. But either way, it's not the ideal way to be waking up in your boyfriend's bed that you just had sex with for the first time and him not be there. And then, so you don't know if you should be like mad at him or worried about him, you know? So it's like, there's all these things that immediately like rushed in. And I was just like, great. I thought I was at least going to be relieved of the emotional roller coaster by the end of the episode. And they're just like, nah, bitch, we're just getting up to the top.
Literally,
all the way back down next episode.
No, this whole episode was the crank up before you even hit the peak of the like the wave of the roller coaster. Like,
yeah, and now we're just sitting there at the top, and that's where they left us.
You bring up a good point, which I'm sure will come up in like metaphor section for next episode. But that is a key thing, is like this is what the metaphor and subtext is for the episode, is like the after you have sex with the guy, he turns evil. Like that's the whole premise of the whole thing, or becomes somebody else.
Don't know,
because he got what he wanted ultimately, which that's not the case obviously with Angel, we know that, but that's what the show was trying to like put as a parallel for us as people being able to like connect with the show and be like, oh, I've had this happen to me. Like I've had, you know, especially girls being like left in the bed, like you said, after a one night stand, you never hear from the guy again, or he's a douchebag the next day, or he's at the school telling everybody that like you were easy,
and
like,
it's a good way, again, like they do a good job at this. It's a good way to keep the show relative to the viewers, because we all have those like emotions, even if it's never happened to you. I think we've all felt that like fear of that happening to us, where like, okay, we finally gave ourselves like fully to someone. What if they don't react the way that we want them to, or that we anticipate they will? What if they hate it, or they hate us, or they act like they don't know us, or, you know, it brings that point of relation back up emotionally to Buffy's journey as far as her like connection and relationship and falling in love for the first time is concerned. But it also keeps the premise of how conflicting it makes it even more so for her. You know, she's already battling internally this Slayer duty and her life as a teenager, but then to constantly at every turn be met with the confusion of those two worlds merging and you not knowing what's what. You know what I mean? Like when she wakes up, she doesn't know. You know, she doesn't know where Angel is. She doesn't know if he's just a douchebag now. She doesn't know if someone's kidnapped him. She doesn't know anything. So it's like either way, she's constantly facing circumstantial shit that has everything to do with her being a vampire slayer. But then there's also this really heavy undertone of the reality that we face as normal people in these circumstances, where we could wake up sometimes in someone's bed that we just slept with and them not be there, and us be left with questions and concerns and anxiety and that not go anywhere ever, you know what I mean? So it's like they do such a good job at making her two parallel and very different worlds merge in a way to still keep it so relatable to us. So I already preemptively felt for her before the next episode even started, because I was like, in any case, we know she's waking up and Angel's not going to be there, and from then on it's just utter anxiety and confusion about the whole situation. So
absolutely,
damn.
Yeah, intense first episode for it to be a to be continued stuff. Like I can only imagine what people thought whenever that shit popped up on the screen. They're like, wait, what? But
they're like, take us off the roller coaster.
Fun fact about that in a minute. But what a start to the episodes. Like so much going on. I love that this one rushes in with the themes of dreams and something happening to Angel. the reveal of Jenny,
Mhm.
like, to us not being who we thought she was, and like just by the ending scene of Angel and her physically taking the next step. Unfortunately for everyone, this is not a good thing. We get Oz joining the gang too, then the judge being teamed up with Spike and Drew. Like, anyway, you get all of this within the story, and it's so beautifully done. And then it rolls you right into the next one. And damn, if it ain't crazy how we were just like left hanging after Buffy and Angel sleep together the first time. Like, if you weren't to just watch the next episode, you'd be like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you're left really wondering. And we're just like Angel left out in the rain with him. But to speak on the dreams tying into real life and coming true, I loved how they did that. In the first dream, Drusilla's presence indicates that she's still alive. Buffy's mom dropping the plate symbolizes the end of Angel's relationship. And then apparently, because like it's broken into pieces, it's shattered. That's exactly what happens to Buffy in Innocence. And if you listen closely, I didn't ever notice this, but whenever Angel's dusting, you can hear very clearly his like wispiness of his ashes going, my soul, like saying my soul, like as he does. So it's very
Oh,
interesting. I never paid that
dang.
attention. I saw that in my fun facts and I was like, what the fuck?
That's crazy as hell.
In the second dream, Buffy sees the factory, so she obviously notices where they're located at, which Buffy's never seen at this time, so it's showing her exactly where the people are residing. But she also sees Jenny in here just casually walking around really quick by the chairs.
That's true.
And this is before the next episode's dream sequence, which adds more to that story, but it lets us know that she has something to do with it, which at this point we're already learning, like from our viewpoint, before Buffy and everybody else is, because obviously we don't get the revelations of that until like Innocence. And then in dream 3, Buffy's dreams of her and Angel's lovemaking, which is part of Innocence. We flash over to the cemetery, basically representing Angel's funeral, and Angel has Buffy take notice to Jenny, that being where the key lies of what made him turn evil, because then obviously in Innocence she goes to Jenny to find out what happened. Dreams can mean a lot in this show, and it's been that way from the beginning. So I love the fact that Buffy as the Slayer gets these portents into the future in a way. Even if they aren't clear, they help and aid her in her duty and the potential threats that are to come, which had me curious if Kendra ever has any dreams like this. And these dreams also kind of parallel Drusilla as well, who has psychic abilities and also has visions herself across these episodes specifically. One we don't see, but she mentions to Angel, I only dreamed you come, like to her party. The other being at the beginning of Innocence, whenever she has her next vision and she's sensing the rise of Angelus because she's like out on the floor muttering out about Angel and all that good stuff. I think I'm going to just leave it at that for now, though. We'll talk about more for next week whenever we get into Innocence and close up. Metaphor, we'll do everything there. But I'll say for now, this show obviously is all about growing up, and Buffy does a lot of that through the rite of passage that she has here. She physically grows older with her birthday, and in this episode, she loses her virginity, and the next episode, she loses her innocence, which innocence is all about. They say childhood innocence is a big thing, like, you know, seeing the world through child's eyes. You see the world in such an illuminating way, and then one instance happens typically in our childhood to kind of eradicate all of that and send us out into like, oh, the world's kind of fucked up. Like, we're not as safe as we think we are and all of that type of stuff. So that's what this episode really pulls in and then sends you into with Innocence.
That's so true.
BFF time, which is what I'm going to call it now. We're here for our Buffy fun facts. So here's your Buffy fun facts. To start, the show was going to be moving to Tuesdays instead of Mondays where it originally was airing. And the way that they did it was clever. They aired this episode on that Monday and then immediately aired Innocence the next night as part 2 instead of having it to be following the next week, which helped secure fans would roll over to, you know, watching the show on Tuesdays because they didn't want to miss what happens next. And fans apparently were already going crazy on night 1 and writing on like what it was Reddit back in the 90s, you know, like freaking out, like what's happening, what's going on, like whatever. And then obviously at the end of the episode, like most TV shows back in the day, they're like next week on Buffy or however it plays down. So I thought that was pretty cool that like instead of waiting until the next week, they went ahead and aired it on the next night. So you got part 1 on Monday, part 2 on Tuesday, which was super cool.
That's actually very nice and considerate of them, because do you
For
remember
real.
how annoying
Yes.
that shit was, especially on like a cliffhanger episode where you're like, are you effing joking me right now? I have to wait 7 whole days.
Even worse, whenever a season would end on a cliffhanger, like of something, and you're left waiting,
That's the
you know,
worst. Months.
6 months or a year for a new season to come out and wondering what happens. To add to that fun fact, though, Innocence is the highest viewed episode of Buffy the WB ever aired. It had the most viewers, with Surprise being the number 3 spot. I can't say what the number 2 spot was, which technically wasn't even on this. Like, it was whenever the show had moved to the UPN. But out of the whole first 5 seasons of Buffy that premiered on the WB, Innocence is the highest viewed episode of Buffy of all time, which is insane.
Wow.
How many people were like, that just goes to show how important this episode was. Other fun facts: in some assembly required, Cordy quotes "Angel saved me from an arm," being the dumpster bodies of the chopped up cheerleaders, and here Buffy is saved from an arm literally in this episode. So like Angel has saved now 2 girls from an arm. Apparently Harmony was supposed to be in this episode, and they cut her scene that she had with Cordelia. Cordelia was trying to like test the waters because Xander was sitting across the courtyard or something, and Cordelia was like head tilting or something and looking at Harmony and being like, do you think Xander is actually kind of cute? And Harmony was like, yeah, in a freako stupid world, like being like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then apparently Cordelia cuts off and be like, oh, I was just joking, like I was testing you, trying to like kind of open up the playing field to see what her friends would say about it. Exactly. But they cut the scene because of time, because there was too much other stuff going on. They couldn't have this in there. Angel losing his soul because he attains a moment of pure happiness is reminiscent of the German legend of Faust, a scholar who made a deal with the devil in gaining all worldly things. He agreed that in return, if he ever attained a moment of pure happiness, his soul would forever serve the devil. And this is like where Joss got the whole idea for the storyline for Angel's soul going away, was from that Germanic legend, which I thought was fun because you're German. So I was like, I wonder if you know about Faust.
I do.
Angel is Irish, and that's made canon in this episode. When he gives Buffy the ring, he says that his people exchanged this ring as a sign of devotion. And this is later confirmed in the season finale whenever we see a certain scene. He's from Ireland, just like all bronze, no brains, aka the old up the buff. I'd be loving some Irish people, I swear. Angel, that just enhances him in my eyes. My Celtic dream. And then my last fun fact is that this episode won an Emmy Award for outstanding makeup in a series, obviously probably being the judges' makeup that was portrayed in this episode. So it's cool, like the show won an Emmy for the makeup, but it hasn't ever won an Emmy for like outstanding performances or anything like that, which kind of sucks for Sarah and everybody else. Now we can move on to our final slays.
Final slays.
Surprise, final slays. My quote for the episode, my first one is Oz, whenever he's like, did anybody else just see that guy turn to dust? And then after Buffy is attacked by the judge's arm, I think Willow was like, what was that? And Oz is like, it looked like an arm. Just, like I said, very atypical, very just moot and like to the point, very calm and reflective in the sense. He's like, well, this is what it looked like to me. And I'm like, bro, shut up, Oz. And then my overall quotes were from Buffy whenever she got out the car from Jenny and she's like, sacred duty, yada, 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 coupled with her snarking at Dalton later in the moment to be like, every time I see you, you're stealing something. Like I just always, that's always like my favorite quote from Buffy for the episode.
I really do love that one a lot. Mine is like the whole exchange between Willow and Oz, where he expresses the nervousness about asking her out, and she's like trying to reassure him, and she's like, if it helps, I'll say yes. And then he finally asks her out, and she's like, oh, I can't. And I'm like, oh my god, a way to like really just ruin this guy's total mojo right now, where you've left him assured. And I just really love that, because it's not just hilarious, but it's so typical of Willow to like have that particular unfolding, especially when it's the first time like this whole instance is coming into real fruition for them, where they're expressing very valid and very like concretely letting each other know like we want to be more than friends kind of thing. And of course it would be Willow to have this exchange and fuck it up. So I just really appreciated the awkwardness of that one.
Love it. Who's your shining slayer for this episode?
I don't know. It was hard for me to think about that because, you know, nothing. I mean, I won't say nothing happened. A lot happened. There was just no defining like slaying going on, you know, and I feel like a lot of people dealt with their own heavy-weighted emotional problems in this episode, but obviously, I think I do have to hand it to Buffy in a way, just because she's still standing at this moment and she's still like at all odds, like, you know what, it's my birthday and I'm gonna have sex with my boyfriend and that's final. So she kind of gets a shining slayer, because against all odds she did make her birthday as, I guess, good as it could have been, in spite of the fact that she literally is facing like all the problems in probably the entire world. So I give it to her. What about you?
I gave it to Angel, just because he had Buffy's back immensely this episode. Like you said, it was kind of hard to choose somebody, but he really was just support for her, everything that was going down on her birthday. He was like the only cheery part of her birthday, truly. even though the parts like were saddened and stuff like that. But then him giving her that ring and all that stuff, I was just like, he's an award-winning boyfriend up until the end. Before next episode starts. Yeah. So like I just gave it to him because this is, as far as we know, the last time we saw Angel. You know what I mean? Because technically Angel's dead because his soul is released from his body, and
That's true.
he's not there anymore. It's the fucking evil ass creature that once housed his body. So
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting.
I guess we could probably unanimously give Giles a Shining Slayer moment because he was the one who was like, you know what, fuck this, we're gonna have the birthday party anyway. And we both pointed out that's so unlike Giles, because if it were any other time before this, he'd be like, no, Slayer duty first.
Yes.
You know, so I think I'll do like a small acknowledgement for Giles because he really did his best to make a normal situation happen for Buffy, but it just was not in the cards, as it never is.
He's our shining Slayer. Weekly wigs. I chose Jenny because she was creeping around the whole episode, and especially when she's like, I'll drive you to the docks. And I'm like, bro, get the fuck out of here. I know what happens and what was going on with her, and I know her like story in full, but just like I couldn't find anything that was really giving me the wigs fully, like other than like Drusilla being unhinged, but I ain't gonna choose her for any of my categories truly if I don't have to. But I don't know. I just was like reassessing it, and I was just like thinking about it. I was like, honestly, Jenny just kind of being a creep this episode was what was giving me the wigs, just for like the way that they put it in there.
No, I can agree with that. That is definitely very wiggy. I think for me, it has to go to Dalton for some reason, just because like his energy and the way that he lurks, and like Buffy pointed out, he obviously, the way we see it is he has a klepto problem, because basically he's just like the pointed thief for Drusilla and for Spike, who constantly, I guess, are sending him on a journey to go steal something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just his overall energy being very like easy to bully and easy to take advantage of, and they just make this example out of him that gives me the weekly wigs, to be totally honest with you. And he's always up to no good because he's always working for the worst people, so I'm just like, you know what, I'm glad he's gone.
For real though. No Slayer predictions this week, as we've already watched the episode. We know what's going on in Innocence, as we've already said. So that being said, that's all for Surprise. I can't believe we made it here, and there's still so much to come. But how do you guys feel about Surprise and Buffy's first birthday episode? Did you love the bangelness of it? Were you left wondering what happened upon original watch? I'd love to know. I'm sure it was like just as crazy as everybody else's and Courtney's reactions. So let us know. We will be back obviously next week to finish up this mini story with Innocence, and we will have a special guest on that episode, and we will talk to you guys when we get there then.
Better do a round robin. Xander, you go first.
Good call.
Round robin?
It's when everybody calls everybody else's mom and tells them they're staying at everyone's house.
That's freeing us up for world savage.
And all my keggers. What, only Xander gets to make dumb jokes?
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Buffy on Revamped. Remember to join us next week for a new episode release as we continue our journey through Sunnydale. We also would like to hear from you, so share your thoughts. Discuss with us your perspectives on this or previous week's episodes by following us on Instagram and sending us a DM at revamp_rewatch podcast.
Or by emailing us at revampedrewatchpod@gmail.com. Additionally, we will be choosing one of your messages to shout out in an upcoming episode release. And if you happen to love abandoned places but prefer them vampire-free, check out Echoes of Elsewhere, an urban exploration podcast, where I interview urban explorers about the eerie spaces they uncover, anything from haunted schools, forgotten mansions, and tunnels that probably don't lead to the Hellmouth. From history to mysteries, tips and tricks of the trade, I dive into all things Urbex. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, the Earth is definitely doomed.
This podcast is dedicated to the Buffyverse, to its fans, and my sister, Tiffany Dawn Pearson.